I was on my way to Julia's house for a study sesh when out of nowhere, I found myself flying onto the ground. I was so stunned, I didn't even see the ball that had hit me, or the fact there was a cute guy rushing over to check if I was okay. He helped me up and apologized. Then he pulled a Band-Aid out of his bag. Oh my, who is he? I'd scraped my hand pretty badly, but I almost didn't mind because now I was face to face with a gorgeous guy. In fact, I was so busy staring at him and blushing that I didn't even notice Julia marching towards us.
What are you two doing?
Turns out the cute guy was Callum, Julia's boyfriend. Ugh, Julia. Of course. Every nice thing is always hers. I'm Jenny, by the way, and that lucky girl is Julia. She's the daughter of the richest guy in town, Mr. Walsh. We're supposed to be friends, but we honestly have nothing in common. I mean, my family is pretty poor. It's not our fault, though. My dad sadly passed away, and so it's just me and my mom trying to make ends meet. Julia, on the other hand, has a silver spoon shoved down her throat. But fate still brought us together. I know it's kind of wrong, but that night I couldn't stop thinking about Callum. He now, in fact, gave me motivation for the next study session with bossy Julia, as maybe he would be there again. I even put on makeup and skipping on the way to her house the next day. But, well, it was all for nothing, because Callum was nowhere to be seen. Instead, I had to sit and listen to Julia go on and on about her trip to Paris. I pretended that I was okay, but actually, I always dreamed of visiting the city of light and gazing up at the Eiffel Tower ever since watching Emily in Paris. Dream on, Jenny. Anyway, Julia was incessant. She loved making me look like a fool, and even said, "Aw, poor Jenny. Maybe one day you'll get to go to Paris. But until then, you can just look at all my photos." Honestly, why was she so cruel to me? Last year around my birthday, she'd even shown me a fashion magazine and asked me which dress I liked best. I thought she was buying gifts for me, but instead, she showed up at my party in the exact dress I pointed out. I couldn't believe it. She just winked at me and laughed, and I seriously wanted to scream at her. Anyway, after looking at about 1 billion Paris pics, Mr. Walsh appeared. He looked happy to see us sitting so close and studying together. If only he knew the truth. But I had to pretend I had a lot of fun with Julia and helping her study, at least for his sake. Mr. Walsh was a good friend of our family, and ever since my dad passed away, he'd been looking out for me, and was even paying my school fees. I couldn't let him down. But you know what? I actually started to get excited to go over to Julia's now, as the thought of bumping into Callum again gave me butterflies. I even got myself a new hairstyle, but he was never there, and I always left feeling disappointed. Then one time, after school, it started to rain dogs and cats, and I had to run for it. Then suddenly I felt an umbrella over my head. Guess what? It was Callum coming to the rescue. It was like something out of a romantic movie. He even offered me a lift home. My heart was racing so hard I was afraid he'd hear it. I just sat there in silence, dripping rain all over his clean car. I even caught him looking over at me a few times, and my heart felt like it was going to leap out of my chest. He pulled up at my house, so I was about to get out when he touched my arm and said, "Can I get your number?" I was confused. I mean, wasn't he Julia's boyfriend? He then explained that he was just hired to be her fake boyfriend so that all the flirty boys would get out of her way. Wow, I couldn't believe it. He asked me to keep it a secret as Julia would end us both if this story got out. Okay, it all made sense now. That's why he never came over to her house. I felt so happy. Over the next few days, Callum and I chatted a lot on the phone, and then eventually he asked me out on a date. We went to the fun fair, and right away he held my hand. It made me feel so special, and I never wanted him to let go. We were having so much fun. Then a familiar voice pierced the air. "Well, well, well. Isn't that my dear friend, Jenny?" I felt dread rush through my whole body. We turned around, and there was Julia and her girl gang all standing there with their arms crossed. Callum dropped my hand and rushed to Julia's side. "It was all her, babe. You gotta see the messages she sent. She's been flirting with me for weeks. It's pathetic." Whoa, was he for real? A second ago he was about to lean in for a kiss, and now he was bad-mouthing me? How could he be so two-faced? I tried to explain to Julia, but she wouldn't listen. She just called me a traitor in front of everyone and told all her friends to lock up their boyfriends in case I try it on with one of theirs next. I was devastated. Everyone was staring at me and judging me. Ugh, if only I could vanish into thin air right now. And as I was thinking about where I could escape to, a guy appeared, grabbed my wrist, and pulled me away. It was Stefan, the guy who lived across the road from me. I didn't understand why he helped me, but I was so grateful that he did. He walked me home and tried to cheer me up by saying how his mom used to love our bakery so much, and that the carrot cake my mom made was his mom's fave. This made me smile, thinking back on all those happy times in our family bakery. When my dad had died, we'd had to sell it to pay off some debt, and life had become quite difficult. Luckily, Mr. Walsh was helping out, but after what just happened with Julia, I wasn't sure I'd be able to face him. The next day at school, everyone was staring at me. I couldn't even find a place to sit at lunch. What had I done? I'd ruined everything. And then it got worse. My phone beeped. It was Mr. Walsh. He said he was so disappointed in me and that I no longer needed to come and tutor his daughter. I wanted to cry, and at the same time I felt so much relief. But then I read on and he said, "I'm sorry, but I can't keep my promise anymore. I'll continue to subsidize your school fees, but you'll have to figure something out for college. Good luck." My heart plummeted. Not only had I been shunned by everyone at school and backstabbed by Callum, but now the door to college was being slammed in my face too. What would I do? My life was over. I felt so sick. I just walked out of the canteen and went home. I didn't dare go to school over the next few days. I was miserable. And just when I'd given up all hope, there was a knock at my door. It was Callum. What was he doing here? He said he was sorry for what had happened and that he missed me so much. Then he asked me if I'd be interested in being his secret girlfriend. What in the world? I was so angry, I wanted to slam the door in his face. But he was fast enough to catch my hand, which took me aback. At that exact moment, Stefan happened to walk past. Seeing me standing there with Callum, his face changed and he immediately walked away. Oh, no. I definitely couldn't let him misunderstand anything about me anymore. He's the only friend I had left. I yanked my arm away from Callum and chased after Stefan. I finally caught up with him and blurted out how I'd been feeling like the whole world was against me and that I didn't know what to do. He told me to calm down, then we went to sit on a bench in the park, as he let me confide everything in him. By the time I finished talking, I was on the verge of tears. Then he said, "Listen, Jenny, you're better than this. Don't dim to fit in with those people at your school. Good people will see you for the real you. You're strong, and you can get through anything. I know you can." He was right. I was better than this. I didn't need to sink as low as Julia and her friends, and I certainly didn't need to rely on Mr. Walsh's money. I'd figure this out by myself, like I always did. So I applied for a part-time job at a coffee shop. Earning my own money felt so good. Suddenly I felt free, and I knew everything was going to be okay. But then one day when I was working, Julia and her gang came in. They still weren't over what happened, and in front of everyone, they brought up what I'd done to humiliate me, and they even recorded it, and I couldn't stop shaking. This was too much. That's when I threw a cup of coffee all over Julia and ran out of there. Julia shouted after me that she was going to tell my mom everything I'd done. Without a doubt, Julia really did it. She even sent my mom photos of me and Callum at the fair. And well, my mom didn't take it well. I rushed home to try and explain after Mom yelled at me over the phone. But then I couldn't find Mom anywhere. I called her phone and a man answered. He said my mom was in a hospital after she fainted? Oh dear good God! I got to the hospital immediately and found out that she had collapsed from shock. But thankfully she was okay. She had to stay in the rest of the day to be monitored. So I went to get us both a cup of coffee. That's when I saw him. Callum. He was in the ward next door sitting with some girl. I almost dropped the coffee out of shock. They looked close. I waited until he'd left, and then I went to ask the girl if Callum was her boyfriend. Well, turns out they'd been dating for 2 years already. So he was triple cheating? The girl deserved to know the truth, so I took a deep breath and told her everything. She was so upset. We decided to get our own back. So the girl called Callum and asked him to come back. As soon as he arrived, we confronted him and got the truth once and for all. He was never Julia's real boyfriend. In fact, here's the shocking part. He was hired by Julia to pretend to date me and ruin my life. Apparently, she was jealous of how much attention her dad gave me since my dad had died, and that her dad constantly compared her to me. He kept apologizing to his girlfriend, saying how much he loved her, and that he only agreed to help Julia so that he could earn some money to help pay for her medical bills. I was stunned. Callum was so apologetic and said he'd come clean about everything. He posted it on the school forum to clear my name, and to everyone to see the ugly truth about Julia. And of course, when Mr. Walsh saw it, he made her come and apologize to me. And he also apologized himself and offered to pay my college fees again. Do you think I accepted his offer? Of course not. I was standing on my own feet now, and there was no going back. I didn't need anyone's help. So you might be wondering how I could afford college? Surely not on my coffee shop salary, right? Well, after graduating high school, I realized how much I missed the bakery. That was where I truly felt happy. So I decided to study to become a pastry chef, and now my mom and I have opened a new bakery. I've never been happier. And there's one last thing I want to share. Oh, in fact, here he is. Hey, Stefan, I've made your mom's fave. Let's go surprise her. I couldn't stop smiling as Stefan took the carrot cake, kissed my cheek, and we headed for his car. Life is so much more simple now, and sweet, and I love it.
Finally, after an 11-hour flight, I arrived at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport. It's awesome! I can't wait to see my mom. You see, my dad's French and my mom's American. We used to all live together in France, but then they split up and Mom moved back here. Of course, I've talked to her on FaceTime and stuff, but this will be the first time I've properly seen her in 5 years. I haven't visited before because Mom's a super successful businesswoman and she works really hard. That meant she wouldn't have the time to provide me with the attention I needed. But now that I'm 16 and I can look after myself, I'm finally able to visit. So, thanks to my dad and stepmom for my plane ticket birthday present, I'm now in sunny LA for a whole month. Not only do I get to spend time with Mom, but I also get to chill out in her enormous villa. Ah, bliss. But first, let's get all my luggage, then find a taxi to my mom's. Yeah, unfortunately, she couldn't come to pick me up since she had some work to do. But no problem, I can handle this myself. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. It's been half an hour and my luggage was nowhere to be seen. Then, this handsome guy approached me and said, "Hey, looks like your luggage has gone AWOL. Do you need any help?" Cute and helpful. I could totally get used to US guys. I showed him my ticket, and turns out I was waiting at the wrong carousel. Oops. After guiding me to the correct one, this guy, whose name I found out was Zach, even pulled my luggage down for me. But one of my cases got stuck and burst open, causing everything to tumble out. "Girl, it's not your lucky day, is it?" He burst out laughing. Oh well, at least it wasn't all bad. I mean, a cute guy had rescued me, right? He helped me pick up my things, then he offered to drive me to my mom's house. After some 30 minutes, he began to slow down. I looked out the window and, oh my God! This is the chicest villa ever! The pool, the tennis court, the palm trees. It was exactly like a movie star home. I was gawping at the villa when suddenly I heard a car engine sound. Startled, I turned around to see Zach zooming away. "My suitcases!" I yelled. Ugh, my laptop and iPad were in there too. Oh God, why is this happening to me? And on my very first day in the US? At least I still had my phone and passport with me. Phew. So I called my mom. Needless to say, I was a distraught mess when she arrived. Who'd have thought that such a kind-looking guy would turn out to be a thief? Anyways, my mom could buy me new clothes and things, and I could still have an amazing time in her villa, right? Mom led me to my room and told me to get some rest. After that disaster, I was dead exhausted, so I quickly fell asleep on the comfiest bed ever. When I awoke, it was dark outside. I realized I hadn't eaten anything since the flight, so I went downstairs and checked the fridge and cupboards. Huh? they were all empty. I was still digging around in the kitchen when my mom returned with some burgers. "Sweetie, I only got back from my business trip yesterday, so I haven't had time to go to the grocery store. Let's just eat fast food today, okay?" I didn't mind, as it was awesome to have dinner with my mom again after such a long time. I took a look around the room. There was barely any furniture here. My mom said that's minimalism, a trendy lifestyle in LA nowadays. Less is more. How cool is that? The next morning we went out, but what's with that old rusty car? Seeing my confused look, she quickly explained that this was only temporary as her car was being serviced. But then Mom couldn't get the garage door to open. Turns out, normally she had her own chauffeur, but since I've traveled thousands of miles to visit her, she wanted to drive herself. Aw, how sweet. In the following days, my mom and I enjoyed ourselves in LA. Sunbathing by the pool, spa days, shopping. This is definitely the best vacation of my life. At least until that morning, I was awoken by a loud quarrel. Looking down from the stairs, I saw Mom in the living room with a strange woman. She was pointing at the couch. Geez, that's where I spilled soy sauce yesterday while eating sushi. Then Mom appeared and sounded flustered. She told me to quickly pack my things as we were leaving. Mom, is there something wrong?" "Oh, nothing, sweetie. It's just that the couch is dirty, so let's just get someone in to clean the entire villa." Wow, Mom would deep clean the whole house just because of a soy sauce stain? How rich is she? So, where will we stay this time? A luxurious 5-star hotel? Or a magnificent mansion in Beverly Hills? But then the car came to a stop in front of some shabby apartment building. Huh? This couldn't be right. Mom told me this was her friend's spare apartment, so we would stay here a few days for convenience. "Elena, it's probably best if you stay away from the people in this area. They don't have the same lifestyle as us. You know what I mean." Ugh. Yeah, this place was the opposite of the villa. Cramped room, hard bed, and the bathroom didn't even have a bathtub. Since moving here, Mom didn't take me out anymore. In the evenings, she dressed up all elegantly and went out to her fancy work meetings. On one such evening, I was sitting alone watching YouTube, munching on French fries for the 5th time this week, when there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and standing there was a scruffy guy, claiming to be Frankie, the landlord's son. I told him there must be a mistake, as we were only here for a few days. Then I went to close the door, but he blocked it with his foot. "Miss Anita has rented this apartment for 2 years. What do you mean a few days? I just saw her take a cab at the front door. Don't lie to me." No, my mom is a successful businesswoman who has a villa in Brentwood Park.
"Then you must have mistaken your mom for someone else. In short, remind your businesswoman mom to pay the rent."
Then he sneered and walked away. How dare he say that? And why did I keep on running into jerks? Ugh! When Mom returned, I told her what had happened. I thought she'd find it funny or something, but nope. Instead, she got really mad.
"You shouldn't have opened the door to him. I told you not to socialize with the people here."
Okay, hearing made-up lies about yourself like that must suck, but did she have to be so furious about it? The next morning, I was drinking tea on the balcony when suddenly I saw a familiar face passing by down the street. My God, it was the jerk from the airport, Zach! "That thief!" I shouted, rushing down, but when I got there, he disappeared. I was still exasperated when a voice came from behind.
"What on earth are you doing screaming this early in the morning?"
I turned around to see Frankie leaning against the wall with his arms folded. "None of your business, swindler."
"Huh? Swindler? What do you mean?"
"Quit lying. I already told my mom all about you trying to con money out of me."
Is that so? So, you think I'm the liar?"
Before I could answer that provoking question, I heard my mom's voice calling down from the balcony.
"Hey, rich girl, if you want a reality check, I suggest you come meet me tonight, and we'll go follow your mom."
Mom appeared and, frowning, asked me why I was talking to Frankie. I blurted out something about asking for directions, then quickly entered the room and closed the door. Frankie was clearly a thieving, lying jerk, right? But then, why were his words lingering in my mind? I had noticed a few strange things, such as when we were at the villa, I asked Mom where the cutlery was, but she couldn't remember. But then in this apartment, she immediately got it. Plus, why was there a photo of her in the bedroom when this was her friend's place? That night, when Mom was getting ready to go out again, I spotted her necklace. Only, it was actually my necklace. The one that had been stolen along with the rest of my stuff. My dad got that necklace custom-made just for me, so it was a one-of-a-kind, but why did Mom have it? I complimented her on it and asked her where she'd got it from. Blushing, she excitedly told me that this rich man she'd just started dating had bought it for her. Then she said he was taking her for dinner tonight. I forced a smile, but my head was filled with questions. Who really was Mom? I secretly followed my mom down the street. Suddenly, a hand patted my shoulder.
Let's go.
I turned around and it was Frankie. Without saying anything, I nodded and quickly got into his car, and we followed Mom's taxi. Hold on. Isn't that the villa we stayed in before? After a while, a luxury car arrived, taking my mom to a nearby expensive restaurant. We peered through the glass wall. There she was. My mom was sitting there, smiling and talking with some man in a suit. Was she pretending to live in that villa to trick that man? Was my mom a gold digger? I couldn't watch any more of this, so I pulled on Frankie's arm. But weirdly, he seemed to be as shocked as I was. Wasn't this your idea? So why the pale face? He just shook his head and took me home. We waited in the apartment for Mom to return, and oh boy, it was tense. Around midnight, we heard the door open, and Mom walked in and looked at us in alarm. She started shooing Frankie out of there, but I interrupted her. Mom, I know everything. You've lived here for 2 years. You're poor, and you scam rich men. Sweetie, it's not like that. Please calm down and I'll explain everything to you. So, it turns out, after divorcing my dad, she was determined to go back to the US and succeed at business. But she failed, and she was so embarrassed she lied to me and Dad. Then when she heard that I was coming to visit, she spent the little savings she had on renting a swanky villa for me. But when I accidentally spilled soy sauce on that expensive couch, she couldn't afford to fix it, so we were kicked out. As for the man I was with tonight, I ran into him while walking outside the villa. He's rich and nice. He likes me and I like him too. But what about that necklace? Mom, it's actually mine. It was in my stolen suitcase. My mom gave me a confused look, but before she could say anything, Frankie blurted out,
That man's a fraud.
Mom and I gaped at Frankie as he turned to me and said,
I'm sorry, but I think you guys need to know the truth.
Then Frankie told us how that man was none other than Zach's dad. After taking me back to the villa, Zach figured my mom was rich, so he persuaded his dad to come and flirt with her.
But how did you dig up the dirt on these guys? Because I know Zach. When I saw Lana chasing him, I knew he'd stolen from her. But he's my friend.
Great! So you've both been lying to me! Then I rushed into my room, locked the door, and burst into tears. The next morning, Mom knocked on my door, but I ignored her.
Lana, I get that you're upset with me, but I've left a sandwich here, so please at least eat something. I'm really sorry. Just wanted to be the perfect mother for you.
Her words caused me to sob all over again. But I can say, from the bottom of my heart, I feel sorry for her. After that, I opened the door and hugged her tightly, and then we both blubbered into each other's arms. I'm leaving LA today, with Mom. She's moving back to France with me, where she can start afresh. While I was dragging my suitcase to the taxi, Frankie appeared and apologized to me. I just shrugged and told him it didn't matter anymore. I mean,
At least he came clean in the end and saved my mom from that swindler. Hey, rich girl. Good luck. And, feel free to keep in touch. So, what now? Well, Mom is settling back into French life. She has a new job and a chic apartment. I go and stay with her each weekend, and it's good to finally spend time with the real her. As for Frankie, well, we send each other lots of Snapchats. So, okay, maybe I kinda like him. I'm planning to visit him in the summer. Hopefully my next trip to the US won't be as crazy as my last one.
Hey, what exactly do you think you're doing? I know you stole my money. Give it back to me right now. Yeah, give it back to Sophie. That's her allowance. What money? I don't know about any money. I shrugged as I walked toward my bed, ignoring Sophie's furious face. After that, I had to listen to Sophie throw more accusations at me. Blah, blah, blah. I know it was only because I was a tomboy, so surely if a girl chooses to have short hair and wear baggy clothes, then she must be a thief. Poof! Eventually, I reached my breaking point. Quit with the accusations. I didn't steal any money. I didn't even know you had money. I know you took it. If you don't return it to me this instant, then I'm gonna tell Miss Hopkins. Her idle threats didn't bother me, so I just flopped down on my bed and played on my phone. Talk about a heavy atmosphere. Ugh. Then I saw them all frantically checking their phones and giving each other confused looks. So I took an earpod out and heard a phone ringing from over by Sophie. Isn't that your new phone, Sophie? Why don't you pick it up? What? No! Sophie stuttered, while Bella and Carly stared at her, all confused. I walked over to Sophie's bed, lifted the pillow, and yep, there was a brand new iPhone 13 Pro Max. So, Sophie, if there's nothing wrong with your brand new phone, then why did you feel the need to hide it so badly and not answer my calls? She nervously chewed on her nails, then blurted out, Fine, I spent all my allowance on a new phone. I knew my parents would be livid that I spent it so quickly, so I thought it'd be easier to blame you, since you're new and look kinda intimidating. Nice. I stared at her. You could have, found someone dumber to mess with, as I already see right through you and your dirty schemes. But whatever. Girls, I'm sorry. She gave Bella and Carly pleading looks. Please forgive me. They both shook their heads and told her that she'd have to ask Miss Hopkins, the dormitory supervisor, for a room change, else they'd tell everyone what she did. So Sophie angrily packed, then moved out. When the room was Sophie-free, Carly and Bella apologized to me, then helped me tidy up my stuff. I smiled at them. No worries, it's cool. After that, they wouldn't quit complimenting my clothes and style, and how smart I was. This was flattering and all, but I kept my chill exterior. That weekend, the school took us out on some woodland activity day. Our teachers organized a treasure hunt and divided us into groups. I ended up with Carly, Bella, and these two other girls. The teacher handed Bella the map, and she held it up the wrong way. I think this map's broken. I chuckled, took it off her, then using the first clue we'd been given, I quickly found out that we needed to walk 100 steps east and find a tree by the lake. Turns out, all of the other clues were as easy peasy as the first one, and soon we'd finished the game. In first place! Everyone was gawping and clapping at me. Poof, it's just a piece of cake. We were on our way back to the dorm room when Carly sidled up to me and said, Hey Sam, you did great today. Oh, it's nothing. Puzzle games are my cup of tea. Hey, I have an idea. Let's form a detective team, as our school still has a few cases unsolved. That's a good idea. With the Sherlock Holmes minds of ours combined, nothing is impossible. Then the three of us looked at one another and laughed. I gave a nod in agreement. I mean, a detective agency sounded kind of fun. And that's how the CSI detective team was born. It stands for Caroline, Samantha, Isabel. Of course. At first, everyone laughed at us because they thought this group was nonsense. But then, the math exam was stolen, and through our expert investigation skills, we linked it to none other than Aubrey, the top student in the class. Hey, we even caught the creep who broke into the school to spy on the girls. And it was only a matter of time till everyone began to recognize our talents. One day, the three of us were standing at the locker when a series of message alarms rang out. It turns out that our school's confession page has a new post claiming that Liam, the most popular boy at school, was seducing, then defrauding numerous girls. They also posted some of the love notes Liam had slid into the girls' locker to manipulate them into giving him money. The message showed, "I can't wait to take you on a special date, but my debit card won't work. If you lend me yours, I'll make our date unbelievable. I promise. X." OMG, this is unbelievable! At that moment, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around to see a sullen-looking Liam standing there. "Please, you've gotta help me. These are all false accusations. Please help me find out who did this." And of course, all of us nodded immediately.
No one would refuse to help a boy as cute as Liam. Oh, I mean, we're the school's famous detective team, so how can we ignore this? Right?
Yeah, right. I rolled my eyes. I didn't blame Carly for liking Liam. I mean, everyone likes him. I guess even I did. Bella then interrupted my daydreaming.
Come on, guys. Let's focus on our job. I think the person who did this must have some kind of grudge against Liam.
Everyone agreed and started investigating, which led me to sneak into Liam's dorm and rifle through the bin. Bingo! I found a scrunched-up piece of paper with the messages Liam had supposedly sent to his victims, scrawled in green ink. Then, who should just so happen to have green smudge on their hand but James, one of Liam's roommates. It turns out, James did this just because he was jealous of Liam's popularity. How petty. Well, this success certainly made the detective group more credible. We actually had our own fan base, and I was always overhearing other kids talking about us in a good way. Best of all, Liam was so grateful to us that he started hanging out with us more. We even went to the park with him one weekend, and he bought us all ice creams. Carly kept on flicking out her hair and giving him doe-eyed looks. While being the chilled girl I am, I kept it at a smile and a thanks. The only one who didn't seem impressed by Liam was Bella, who took the ice cream, forced a polite smile, then ignored him. Oh well, at least this meant one less competitor for his affection. One day, we were having lunch when we overheard the girls at the next table talking about how a girl saw a ghost in the old chemistry lab, and it scared her so badly, she refused to leave her bedroom for days. According to the others, the legend of this ghost had been around for a long time. Now, this sounded like a job for the CSI, but Bella immediately folded her arms and shook her head.
No, I'm not going. There are no ghosts in this world.
I firmly said, yep, so we have to go and clear this up. But no matter how much Carly and I tried to persuade her, she point-blank refused to go.
Don't you know about the curse? If anyone goes looking for this ghost, they will be cursed and have bad luck for the rest of their lives.
Didn't you just say there are no ghosts in this world? So why does that dumb curse bother you?
Actually, I'm afraid of ghosts.
I looked at Bella and tried not to laugh. Okay, so you stay in the room. Then me and Carly went to discuss plans for the evening. We were hiding in the corner of the chemistry lab. Jeez, it was boring in here, and I was kinda hungry. I should have brought snacks. Suddenly, a cold wind blew past us. It made me all goose-pimply. Carly shook my arm and whispered,
Sam, let's go back to the dorm.
Shh! I heard something. Footsteps. Then I felt a touch on my shoulder. I looked at Carly. Then we both screamed and bolted for the door. Thud! We hit something and fell to the floor. I scrambled to get up and saw Carly with her eyes closed and praying.
Please, ghost, please forgive us.
What are you doing here this late? I looked up. It turned out to be a frowning Miss Hopkins. Yep,
We both ended up getting a week's worth of detention for sneaking around at this hour. Ugh. After Ms. Hopkins gave us another lecture and escorted us back to our dorm, Bella looked at us from her bed and said, "I told you that you'd both end up cursed, didn't I?" I snorted. I mean, a curse was nonsense, right? But then weird things started happening to me and Carly. My history assignment disappeared 10 minutes before the deadline. Carly went to put her sports kit on and found it covered in mud stains. And our personal items kept on disappearing, then reappearing in weird places. Worse still, the rumor of the detective team being cursed spread very quickly. Enough was enough. I needed to investigate this so-called curse and get to the bottom of it. I told Bella and Carly what I planned to do, but they didn't seem convinced.
No, what if something bad happens? I'm never going back there.
Sam, you shouldn't go there either. Okay, chill. I won't do it. It's just an idea. Calm down. That's what I told them. But the thing is, I don't give up easily, and I needed to figure out what was going on. So that night, I snuck out of the room and went to the lab alone. The hallway leading to the lab was so dark and quiet that I could hear my own breathing. Then suddenly, I saw a dark figure standing in front of the lab door. I tiptoed over. Then I heard a voice.
Did anyone see you?
So ghosts can talk now? But wait, why is this voice so familiar? I shone my phone flashlight at it. Bella? And Liam? Bella startled.
Listen to me first. It's not what you're thinking.
Oh my God, had my friend been betraying me all this time? I immediately turned away and stormed off. Bella tried catching up with me to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. It was her all along. She'd played those sneaky tricks on Carly and me so we thought we were cursed and wouldn't go back to her and Liam's secret rendezvous place. Back in the room, I told Carly what had happened, and we decided to ignore Bella. That's what she deserved. One day, we were eating lunch when Bella came over. Both of us were about to leave, but Bella hurriedly said, "Please give me a chance to explain." There's no need to explain. We know what you did.
I know I messed up, but it's only because I'm afraid you guys will react like this, and I didn't want to lose our friendship.
I put down the tray and reluctantly sat down.
I've been dating Liam for a while, and we were going to go public, but then I could see that you both liked him, and I was worried you'd be mad at me, and our detective team would disband. God, you're such an idiot. Do you think we're that selfish?
So yeah, we have a bit of a crush on Liam, but if you told us you were dating him, we would have been cool with it. Hearing that, Bella looked embarrassed. Then she gave a reconciling smile. Then we all hugged each other and promised that from now on, there would be no more secrets between us. And of course, the CSI detective team is still active, and now even has a hot new boy member. Yep, you guessed it right. It's none other than Liam.
Hey, I'm Madison, and I was born into a well-off family. My parents are successful entrepreneurs who always fulfill their dearest daughter's wishes. Beautiful face, supermodel figure, I have both. But unfortunately, I'm not the only one. I have a limelight-hogging twin sister, Olivia. Since elementary school, my sister has won loads of trophies for her singing. Everyone was so spellbound by her that they seemed to completely forget about me. And it didn't help when Mom dressed us the same. Meanwhile, Dad was always like, "Whoa, I could barely tell my two princesses apart. Maddie, if your sister is tied up with her singing, you could help fill in her place in class." Ugh, it's not funny at all. Especially when that kind of came true. Later at 14, when I was still trying to figure out what today's homework was, my sister went and won The Voice Kids. At school, everyone kept giving me gifts and praises just to walk off on me as soon as they realized I wasn't Olivia. Hey, it's not like I intentionally tricked them. Trust me, I'm just as sick and tired of all this as everyone else, so I decided to take action. Ta-da! Did you recognize me? Still Madison here. The one-of-a-kind Madison with pixie hair, smoky eyes, nude lipstick, and this edgy outfit. I look different, right? But... Oh, are you cosplaying Olivia in her upcoming MV?
Madison, you're ruining your sister's image.
I tried to be different from her, but it couldn't change the fact that I'm the twin sister of a famous singer. There's so many things I wanted to do, but just imagine if I tried out for the cheerleading team or a modeling contest. People would be, look at the tragic Olivia wannabe. The name Olivia gradually became something that haunted me, and now she's constantly gaining in fame while I remain in her shadow. I have my own dream of becoming a model too, and I've gone to every audition I could, but so far, no luck. Oh right, let's check out my new video. Maybe YouTube will be the Kickstarter for my rise to fame. Remember to remove your makeup thoroughly, and the last step is subscribe to my channel to stay updated with the latest makeup trends. It's only been 10 hours, but look at this. There are over 200,000 views and 1,000 comments. Yay! Let's see. Like if you watch this just because you thought this was Olivia. When you're boring but you have a famous sister. Olivia, you're the GOAT. Please reply to my comment. What on earth is going on here? No one talked about the video content. It's all about Olivia. Why can't I get rid of that name? I am Madison. Frustrated, I closed the laptop to leave, but turned around to see the mean girls surrounding me. Silly, you should have titled it Skincare Tips from Olivia's Sister. There would have been millions of views by now. Someone with no talent like you should just stay in the dark, please. Shut up! Just wait. One day y'all gonna become my fans too. Finally, what a long day. But isn't every beginning tough? Me quitting would be exactly what those mean girls wanted, so I can't give up now. I was struggling to set up my camera when Mom opened the door and peeked in. You started a YouTube channel? Why not ask your sister to help promote it? But no worry. Everyone can obviously see that you're Olivia's sister. You'll probably receive a gold button soon anyway. Ugh, what do you know? I don't even need her help. And please, stop entering my room without knocking. Nobody acknowledges my effort just because I look like her. Fine then, just wait and see. In 2 more months, I'll be 18 and be able to do one thing I've been dreaming of. That will put an end to all this unfairness I had to suffer. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. Right here, right now, I'll be reborn. I'm ready to start my life anew. You can open your eyes and look at yourself, Ms. Lewis. Okay, 3, 2, 1. OMG in the mirror. A beautiful face. A stranger. Not like Olivia's or anyone I ever know. Finally, I can live my life with my famous sister out of my way. I wonder how my parents would react to this face that I myself don't even recognize. Hey, I'm home. Hello? But who are you? It's Madison, aren't you? What happened? Did you get plastic surgery? Plastic surgery? Didn't you say you were on vacation with your friends? Your beautiful face. Why did you? You mean Olivia's beautiful face. I'm done living in her shadow. Then I ran straight to my room, leaving them there all stunned. The next morning at school, all the girls' curious eyes were on me. And the boys? Needless to say, people were buzzing around. But there was no Olivia nor Madison to be heard. Nobody recognized me. I am the one and only now. Hey, Angel, are you lost? Let me show you around. Since when did this mean girl become so friendly? You moving here is the right decision. Our school is the best in the state. Boring! If it weren't for my parents' new investment in this area, I wouldn't be at this shabby place. This fame-seeking silly girl instantly bought my bluffing. Her eyes widened, looking at me like a puppy. Then she did everything I asked her to. Buying me sodas, carrying my bag for me, and even wiping my seat. Suddenly, Alicia walked over and nudged Zara. Where have you been? I told you to get me a latte. And who's she? Oh, this is my new bestie. And you should go get your latte yourself, as I'll be busy showing my friend here around, right? Alicia's frown face was a picture. What a solid friendship these mean girls have. But the fun had only just begun. As the teacher did a roll call, I raised my hand up at the sound of Madison Lewis. The whole class gasped. And you betcha, Alicia and Zara's bewildered faces were hilarious. Didn't see that coming, huh? By recess, the whole school had heard the breaking news. Me, Madison, just got plastic surgery. Some were showering me with flattery, while some just kept judging the size of my eyes or my nose bridge, blah, blah, blah. But no one compared me to Olivia anymore. They just forgot about my famous twin sister. That's all I need. Madison is unique. Ouch! What's wrong with you? Are you blind? It was you going the wrong way, Madison.
He looks so familiar, but I still can't think of his name.
It's Dylan. Have you seriously forgotten my name already?
That's right! My old neighbor Dylan. His family must have moved back to town again. But how could you recognize me right away?
You look a bit different, but I can still tell from your voice.
Forget the past. I'm the new Madison, the best version of Madison. Then I walked away from him. Now I'm finally free to do whatever I want without being compared to Olivia. I easily got that cheerleading captain title. From this spot, I can see all the impressed spectators and Zara's look of fury. She was the former captain who got dethroned by me. Then I went on and won the school beauty contest too. Alicia's boyfriend, Sid, even dumped her to chase after me. Who's the loser now, girl? But of course, a jerk like him didn't interest me, so I bluntly rejected him in front of everyone. One afternoon while I was going home, Sid jumped out of nowhere and blocked my way. Babe, girls are lining up to date me, but I picked you. Be my girl and you'll see. Come on, just one dinner. Let go of me! Suddenly, a big-looking guy rushed in, scared Sid off, and then offered to take me home. He introduced himself as Isaac, and turns out we were in the same chemistry class. Oh god, how come I never noticed this handsome boy? Probably chemistry had sucked the life out of me every time I entered that lab room, but it's okay. We can rebuild our chemistry here now. After that day, we texted each other all of the time, and a week later, we became an item. Fast, yes, but when you know, you know. Isaac took care of me during workouts, waited in the salon for hours, and even kept me updated with fashion trends. He's just perfect. But one time, when we walked hand in hand at the mall, I caught sight of Dylan's cold face. I suddenly felt awkward and tried to avoid his gaze. Strange, but why bother? Isaac and I were too busy discussing our upcoming plans anyway. I finally released my second video, and no one mentioned Olivia. But Gigi, Bella, Lily, Maymac? Now they're seeing me like those hot girls? Ridiculous! And talk kept coming about how I look like other stars. Maybe she brought their photos and asked the surgeon to copy them, but no way can replica compete with the original. Still, isn't it better to resemble your own sibling than being some stranger's copycat? So, did I really look like a carbon copy of someone else? Again? I rushed to Isaac. He's the only one I can trust.
Just a little, babe. But if you don't like it, there's always a way.
So I continued to undergo many other surgeries to find the perfect, unique Madison. Isaac was always there to encourage me. He was the one who suggested what part I should fix next. Sharper jawline, thinner nose, fuller lips. He has an eye for this, right?
Seems like your eyes still need some fixing. I'll take you there next week.
More? I know Isaac only wanted the best for me, but after pouring my fortune on endless plastic surgeries, I was completely broke, and no way would my parents agree to lend me some. Why not ask Isaac, you wonder? I can't do that. I'm not a gold digger. The surgery appointment was coming up, but I still couldn't gather enough money. What to do?
What's wrong? Fighting with your guy?
Desperate to offload, I blurted out my problem. So, could you help me out? I'll pay you back as soon as possible.
I don't know why you think you need all this surgery. If Isaac really loved you, no way would he make you do this. Let me knock some sense into this dude.
Dylan seemed so mad. I tried to pull his hand, but to no avail. Thank goodness someone blocked him. That's Olivia. I don't know what she said, but Dylan calmed down and went inside. Then Olivia walked towards me. You're already so pretty, Madison. Don't mind what others say. You guys don't know me at all. I'd rather be weirdly ugly than be pretty, but look the same as someone else. I don't want to be a copy of anyone. Then I stormed off immediately. Waking up after a restless night, I was reaching my phone to call Isaac, then saw an envelope of money on the nightstand. Is this from Olivia? Why did she... Never mind. No time to think, else I'm gonna be late for my appointment. Look, my face has healed just in time for my graduation ceremony. Pretty, huh? But I haven't been able to bring myself to be happy at all, as it's been over a month since Isaac ghosted me. After the eye surgery that day, Isaac insisted I have my nose fixed too. I said I needed more time to recover, but he got annoyed and just left. I've been looking forward to this graduation, which is compulsory for everyone, so he won't be able to avoid me anymore. My parents came too, but probably for Olivia, and today's spotlight is definitely hers. Suddenly, the crowd surrounding my sister gravitated to something else. Hang on, Isaac? Oh my god. Standing next to him is a girl who looks exactly like me! And her dress is identical to the one Isaac once gave me.
I rushed over to confront him, but he flung me away.
Wow, how buzzing! Both the real deal and the knockoff are here. Can you even tell them apart, Isaac?
Stop saying nonsense. My princess is the one and only.
Hey, you really do look a lot like me. Who are you?
So after countless surgeries, I was still a doppelganger? All I want is just to be myself, to be unique. Why is it so hard?
I felt rage filling up my body. I ran to the restroom to calm myself down, but it didn't help because I overheard the truth. Isaac and Naomi broke up when she moved abroad with her family. Guess she's back now.
Yeah, how much he must love her to do all this.
Great, now I get it. Isaac only wanted me to get plastic surgery to look like Naomi. But once his ex is back, he threw me away like a broken toy. So the gossip girls at school are definitely not missing out on this chance to mock me. Girls, stop! My sister, it's you who needs to stop. Don't you know you're the cause of everything? Calm down, Madison. It's completely normal to look like someone. To me, and to your family, you've always been the one and only Madison. No! I've never been seen as the only one! Then I told Dylan everything I'd bottled up inside, why I absolutely needed plastic surgery, why I was so obsessed with the fact that I resembled my sister. Everybody had always thought of me merely as Olivia's shadow. I never knew that's how you felt. I'm sorry, Madison. We are such bad parents. Startled, I turned around to see everyone. Madison, I've never looked down on you. I only thought I could use my reputation to make things easier for you. We always try to do the best we can for you two. We thought this change in appearance was what you wanted. If only we'd realized the painful reason behind it. Oh, wow. They actually cared this much about me? I cried even louder and ran straight into their open arms. Maybe Dylan was right. Maybe I really am special just for who I am, not for what I look like. The next day, I went to school to clear out my locker. High school is over. Now I can shake off all the bad memories I had here. Let's start things anew. Oh, finally found you. Naomi, right? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to copy you. I didn't know. It's all right. I know it wasn't your fault. I swear I had no idea Isaac was that much of a jerk. I immediately dumped him and exposed him online. How could he think us girls are just replaceable items? He even had the cheek to cry and beg me. But men like him don't ever deserve to be near us. I thought you'd be angry with me. For what? Madison, I'm truly sorry for what you had to go through. But everything has a bright side to it, don't you think? What do you think about having another twin sister? My dream of becoming a star on a runway has finally come true. But the most amazing thing was finding a companion with the same passion as me, who's none other than my new identical twin, Naomi. Bet no one can tell us apart. Miss Madison Lewis, would you go on a date with me after this? Oh, but I'm Naomi. Don't ever think you can fool me, Madison. You've always been different in my eyes.
Five, 6, 7, 8.
Wow, honey. You're so good. Oh no, now I'd lost count. How long had she been standing there for? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. Can you teach me some moves? I hesitated, but I didn't want to sound mean, so... Sure, Carol. Come in. I'll show you some of the basics. I did some simple moves for her to follow, but... oh man, she was awful. Seeing an out-of-shape, middle-aged woman attempting front lunges and high Vs isn't something you see every day. But I did appreciate that she was putting the effort into getting to know me. Oh, sorry. You must be wondering why I was calling my mom by her first name. Well, she's actually not my mom. She's my stepmom. You see, my mom passed away when I was 10. Then last year, when I turned 15, Dad started seeing someone again with help of a matchmaker. And he thought it was important for me to have a mother figure, and that's how we ended up marrying Carol. I enjoyed having bonding time with Carol, but it quickly became kinda uncomfortable. She watched me practice my cheerleading moves every night, started up conversations about the boys at my school, and she insisted on binge-watching TV series with me. Yeah, you all must know how awkward it is having an adult sitting next to you while there's some romantic kissing scene on the screen, right? Jesus, I needed my privacy. Then one time, I arrived home from school to find her in my room, going through my makeup. Donna, sweetie, how exactly do you use this? Okay, so this was a bit too much. She's crossing some lines here, messing around with my stuff without asking, but I couldn't bring myself to get mad at her either. You see, Carol is the definition of an ideal housewife. She's such a kind-hearted woman, and she always kept the house immaculate and cooked delicious meals. Maybe she spent so much time doing this that she didn't have any time to take care of her appearance? Hey, everyone deserves to feel beautiful, right? So I showed her how to apply makeup. Carol, you do so much for Dad and me, so I think it's about time you treated yourself. How about we go to the mall tomorrow? I would love to. I thought I was doing something nice for her. Little did I know, this was the start of something crazy. The next day at the mall, I took her into a clothing store where women her age shopped. I held up a nice blouse, but she shook her head. Then, to my utter dismay, she insisted we go into the Pull&Bear store next door. But Carol, that's for teenagers! But she still marched us in there. Then she pointed at an outfit and asked me if I could try it on for her. I wanted today to be about her, not me. But okay, as long as she's happy. I stepped out of the dressing room and twirled, and the store staff immediately complimented me. Then Carol suddenly turned to the staff and asked them to get the exact dress in size XL. What? Was she going to wear that too? Carol coyly stepped out from behind the curtain and asked, "So, what do you think?" I froze for a moment. I mean, look at her. She looked ridiculous, but I couldn't tell her that, so I reluctantly gave her a thumbs up. And just like that, Carol bought us both the exact same dress. But there's more. She suggested that we both wear them right now, while we were still in the mall. I spluttered out, shouldn't we save them for a special occasion? But her mind was made up. So, there we were, daughter and stepmom walking through the mall in matching dresses. I could feel all eyes were on us. We even ran into one of my friends, and she mistook Carol for my cousin. At least, that was until she saw Carol's face. That poor girl looked like she'd just seen Annabelle. Carol sure was flattered, as on the way home she beamed as she said, "To think, your friend thought I was your cousin. I should dress like you more often. It takes years off me." And I kid you not, she actually meant it. From that moment onward, she started dressing like a teenage girl. Or, to be precise, like me. Exactly like me. Apparently, I was the only one finding it weird in the house, because my dad said nothing. I needed to talk to her, or else someone at school would see me and make fun of me. So that evening, I went downstairs to see Carol sitting on the couch reading some magazine. I took a deep breath and said, Carol, can we? Oh, hi, sweetie. Look, I'm choosing a cake for your upcoming birthday party. I hope that's okay. Oh no, why is she always so sweet and kind? This made me feel so bad. She's doing so much for me, and all I do is complain. So obviously, I didn't bring up the subject of her copying my style. That's just trivial, right? Instead, I sat next to her and we talked about the birthday party. Then she showed me some pretty dresses on her phone and asked me to pick one for my party. I really like this one. Carol smiled. Oh, that looks lovely. Great choice, sweetie. Imagine how stunning we'll look in these. We? Oh no, not again. It had to be now or never to talk to her about this. Carol, I don't think we... But at that exact moment, my dad arrived back from work. What are you two still doing up so late? Before I could say anything, Carol ran over to him. Donna and I are going to wear this dress on her birthday. What do you think? Great. Anything that makes my ladies happy. I couldn't go through the humiliation of being dress buddies with Carol for one more time. On my special day, I needed to do something. I had a plan, but the timing had to be faultless. So, on the day of my party, when Carol was ironing her dress, I rushed in and told her that the delivery guy had just dropped off the wrong cake. Carol freaked out and ran downstairs immediately. Ha! It worked! Now, let's get started. And, well, 10 minutes later, as expected, we all heard a loud scream coming from upstairs. Dad and I rushed in and saw Carol sitting on the bed crying into the dress.
Darling, what's wrong?
She held up the dress.
Look! It's ruined!
There was an iron-shaped burn mark on it. Yep, you guessed it. It was all me. When Carol left the room, I turned the iron's temperature to max. My God, I really had to pinch myself trying not to laugh. But suddenly, Carol turned to me and in a serious voice said,
You need to change to another dress.
What? She can't be serious, right? It's okay, Carol. You can just wear another dress. I don't mind.
No, it's not okay. We've planned this. Go get the blue one that we both have.
Listen, I don't think we should dress the same. It's just weird. Then my dad jumped in.
There's no time to argue. The guests are already waiting downstairs. So, Donna, go get changed.
Ugh! Unbelievable! It was so embarrassing. All my relatives were complimenting us, but I knew they were really laughing inside. My friends, on the other hand, were sniggering and telling me we looked like a budget version of the Olsen twins. I thought that day was already a nightmare, but then it got extremely annoying when she even started to copy my behavior. One evening, my boyfriend Thomas came over and we were all eating pizza in the living room. I took a bite and said, OMG, delish! And the next thing I knew, Carol was quoting those words of mine as she sipped on her Diet Coke. Cringy! Then later, when Thomas had to leave, I walked him to the door and I squeezed his cheeks as a cute little goodbye, since we couldn't exactly kiss or anything in front of my parents, obviously. But guess what? Just under 5 minutes later, Carol suddenly sat closer to my dad and did the exact same thing to him. It was so weird, and my dad wasn't really impressed either. But here comes the worst part. A few days later, my friend had sent me a link to Carol's TikTok account. Oh my days! It was a video of my dad, and it had thousands of likes. Then suddenly I heard noises coming from downstairs.
Carol? Carol!
Carol scampered out of the kitchen looking clueless.
What's wrong, honey? What's wrong? My colleague just sent me a video of you playing a prank on me. Everybody has seen it. Even my boss, my customers, everyone! How am I supposed to go to work now? Ruining my career. Is that what you want? So much for being an accident.
Yep. The video I was talking about was this one, where Carol baked a fruitcake for my dad and then smashed his face into it. Then, when he looked up, he had 2 strawberry slices stuck to his eyes. He kinda looked like that creepy clown from the movie It. She uploaded it on her TikTok account, and it instantly got viral. I played that prank on my friend a while ago at our slumber party, but I didn't expect that Carol would copy it.
Get out of my house!
My dad's shout took me aback, while Carol burst into tears and begged.
Please, honey, don't do this. I'm sorry.
But my dad didn't listen and just told her to pack and stay out of his sight immediately. As she started to move, I grabbed her arm. Carol, wait. I know that you've been copying my clothing style and my behavior, and now this TikTok. But you must have a reason for that, right? Carol nodded, so I calmed Dad down, and we sat down with her as she sobbed out.
My first husband often made fun of my dreary appearance. He even banned me from going to his family events, as he said the way I looked was embarrassing for him. Then eventually, he couldn't stand looking at me anymore, so he handed me the divorce papers. Now I'm with your father. I worry he too will get irritated by my looks, and I'll be abandoned again. But he adores you. Therefore I thought that if I tried to be more like you, then he'd adore me too.
My God, Carol's ex is such a jerk. How could anybody want to get a divorce just because their partner didn't have the best dressing sense? I hugged her tightly and said, nobody's going to abandon you. You're a part of this family. But how about we find you a new style of your own, instead of copying mine, okay? Carol nodded at me with a light smile while still sniffling. My dad eventually calmed down, apologized for overreacting, and came over to join us in the hug. So after that, I started helping Carol with the house chores so she had more time to spend on herself. I showed her how to style her hair, helped her pick out some stylish clothes, and sent her the links to some videos on makeup tips. Now she has her own chic image going on. She kind of reminds me of Martha Stewart. I always thought my stepmom was bonkers, but turns out everyone's got their own story, right? And we should get to know them first before jumping into any conclusion. Everybody should feel good about themselves, and no one should ever make them feel otherwise.
This view of the Alps is magnificent. Wow, I've never felt this free before. Huh? Hang on. Are those meowing sounds that I'm hearing? I followed the sounds to the raging river nearby, and there, stuck on a rock in the middle of it, was a terrified cat. Oh no, poor baby. I've got to help it. I quickly grabbed onto the nearby tree, then leaned out towards the rock with an opened umbrella on the other hand for the cat to jump onto. The cat hesitated for a bit before making the leap, but it's heavier than I expected. I lost my balance and tumbled into the river. I grabbed the cat just in time, but the strong current made it impossible to float. In a panic, I screamed for help, but the waves lapped over me and gulps of water filled my mouth. And just like that, I felt my surroundings darken. Ugh. What was this wet, scratchy thing rubbing on my face? I opened my eyes to see that cat sitting on me. Thank goodness it was okay. But where am I? This seemed like some kind of rustic cottage house. Suddenly, a man walked into the room with a food tray. Who are you?
Relax. I'm the one who jumped into the river to rescue you both.
Turns out he happened to pass by the river while we were swallowed by the current, and he didn't hesitate to jump in to save us, then brought us back to his home. Oh, thank you for everything.
Sure. Here, eat up. So, how come you and Topaz fell into the waterway?
Who? Oh, you mean the cat? How come you know his name?
It says it right here. See? I'm guessing this is not your cat then?
I told him how I accidentally found Topaz, so its family must live around here somewhere. Hearing this, he agreed to help me find Topaz's owner the next day. He even gave me his bed for the night, then walked out saying he'd sleep on the couch. But as a guest, I couldn't let him do that, so I just grabbed the blanket and went to sit next to him. You have a cool tattoo there. Kinda looks like a mini Mars, right?
Nah, it's my birthmark. The only thing my parents left me.
Hans then told me that he grew up not having a clue who his parents were or why they abandoned him. At 18, he moved out of his foster home and came here to become an herbalist. I felt so bad for him, and in a way, I could relate. Being alone is difficult, but having both mom and dad won't guarantee your happiness. I was born into a well-off family with both of my parents, but the thing was, they only got together due to an arranged marriage, and they have resented each other ever since. My house always felt so cold and empty, and I hated staying there. So, as soon as I graduated high school, I took a gap year to travel the world. Actually, Switzerland is my first stop. Gotta say, it's nice to have someone to talk to like this. I guess Hans felt the same way by this look he gave me. He seemed very touched. The next morning, we took Topaz to the town to ask around. Turned out, today was their annual festival, so a horde of people crammed along the street to celebrate and watch the parade. Hans held my hand so I didn't get lost, but somehow the crowd still pulled me away and I ended up stuck among these sweaty people. Suddenly, a hand grabbed mine and led me out of there. Phew, thank God. I couldn't breathe in there. And you know what? A super handsome, stylish guy was standing in front of me.
Are you okay?
That's when I noticed the tail of my shirt was ripped. Freaked out, I tried to cover it up, so he took out a silk scarf and tied it around my waist. For a second there, I froze to the spot, so amazed by his thoughtfulness. Just at that moment, my phone buzzed with a call from Hans. He told me to meet him at the fountain. Slight problem? I had no idea where that was. Well, lucky me, this gallant guy offered to take me there. We talked along the way, and I found out his name's Willard. He lives in a nearby town and was here for the festival. I told him I came to find the owner of the lost cat I'd found. Then, when I showed him the picture of Topaz, he couldn't hide his shock.
Are you sure this is the cat you found?
I nodded. He stayed silent for a while, then said,
I might know its owner, but I gotta go now. Bring the cat to meet me there. Faye, it was nice meeting you.
Then he bowed down to kiss the back of my hand before he left. How sweet. I watched as he disappeared into the crowd. Thanks to Topaz, I got the chance to meet him again.
Why are you making that funny face?
I told him about my encounter with Willard and convinced him to come with me to the address on the handkerchief. He seemed skeptical at first, but then gave in. I mean, other than this, we had no clue. It was worth a shot, right? The next day, we went to the place Willard told us. But seriously? Is this right? Why were there a line of people all holding near-on identical cats to Topaz? They even had the same collar as him. What is going on? I walked over to ask an old man sitting on a bench. He told me the millionaire lady who lives here had lost her dearest cat, Topaz. People said his name was on the top of her inheritance list, and she promised to greatly reward anyone who safely returned him, so these frauds were trying to deceive the owner by bringing some Topaz look-alike here.
But Madame Primrose is no fool.
Huh? Madame Primrose? The iconic designer and president of Wisteria Fashion Corp?
That's right.
Oh my god! I immediately dragged Hans to stand in the line. You see, my childhood dream was to become a fashion designer, and of course, the one I admired the most was none other than Madame Primrose! Ah! One of the reasons I came to Switzerland was to find her and hopefully become her apprentice. And now look, what are the odds? Finally, it was our turn, but...
I'm gonna have to stop you right there. All right, everyone, listen up. Madame Primrose won't accept any topazes from now on, as she's tired of your deceit. So, disperse.
What? We didn't just wait half a day here for nothing. Fine, I'll find another way to get in. We then walked around the mansion and found its side gate. Then, just when we were climbing over it, a maid caught us, but she didn't make a fuss out of it. Instead, she seemed a bit flirty towards Hans. Ooh, I had an idea. There's our chance. You go and charm her. He seemed confused at first, but then got the point.
Hey, I think you're really cute.
Hans then tried his best at flirting, and as soon as she swooned, I asked her to help us return Topaz to his owner. The maid hesitated at first, but when we said that we didn't need to be repaid or anything, she agreed to let us in. We quickly split up to find Madame Primrose. I wandered the maze-like hallways. Then I suddenly bumped into someone. Mind your way! Wait, I don't know you. What are you doing here?
She's my new friend. Is there a problem?
I'm sorry, young master. It was Willard. He came to rescue me again. Great to see you again, young Master Willard. You live here?
Why didn't you call me when you arrived? Did you bring the cat? Where is it? Give it to me right now.
Willard, calm down. Topaz is safe. I just found out his owner is Madame Primrose and...
I'm her grandson. Just give the cat to me now.
His agitated behavior didn't seem right. I took a few steps back from him, refused to do what he said, then ran.
You don't understand.
Just at that moment, Hans and Madame Primrose appeared.
There you are. Are you okay?
He worriedly asked. But boy, all I could see right now was Madame Primrose. She approached me, held my hand, and repeatedly thanked me for risking my life to rescue Topaz. This was amazing, but why did Willard just leave without saying anything? Madame Primrose invited us to stay for dinner that evening. Joining us were Willard and his mom, Agneta. Madame then told me how much Topaz meant to her. 20 years ago, she lost her son, Mr. Alvarez, to a car accident. Then a year later, her grandson Leroy disappeared. Her grief was almost unbearable, but then she was gifted a cat, Topaz, and thanks to him, she began to heal. I tried comforting her by saying she still had Willard, her other amazing grandson with an excellent fashion sense inherited from his grandma. But to my surprise, Madame Primrose said Willard isn't her real grandson, since Agneta is actually Mr. Alvarez's second wife and was a stepmom to the missing grandson Leroy, and Willard was her son with her ex-husband. I could see Willard and his mom were feeling so uncomfortable. Willard must have felt so hurt as Madame Primrose never even thought of him as a family member. Then my train of thought was interrupted by Hans. Ugh, why didn't he just tell me to pass him the salt instead of sticking his right arm to my face like this? Suddenly, Agneta gave him a mortified look and spilled wine all over the table.
Mom, are you okay?
She didn't reply, but just left. I could tell it was because she saw Hans's birthmark. What could this be? Has she no manners? She must be unwell. I'll go check on her. So I followed her to the garden gazebo. That's where I heard her talking to someone on the phone. You had one simple job. Take that pampered Moggy miles away. Well, guess what? It came back. I gasped in shock, and right then, a hand covered my mouth.
Shh! Be quiet.
Oh, but it gets worse. The stupid cat brought Leroy, the missing grandson, home. That's right. I saw that Mars birthmark with my own eyes. If Primrose finds out about this, we're done. You hear me? Wait, so Leroy, Madame Primrose's only grandchild, is actually Hans. And his stepmom was the one who secretly gave him away in the first place. Even worse, I was hearing this shocking news with her son. Willard, get it together. Do you know anything about her plan?
I knew Mom was behind Topaz going missing. That's why I tried to take the cat away earlier, to keep him safe from her. But Leroy too? That was just heartless. What should I do now? She's my mom, after all.
I could see his pure and kind soul being tormented, and my heart ached for him. I know it must be hard, but you need to tell Madame Primrose the truth and make things right. That's a way to help your mom redeem herself, okay? He stared at me with those dreamy eyes of his, and I felt my heart turn to mush. But a phone call from Hans interrupted us. He was looking for me, saying we gotta go. Right, I had to tell him the truth. In a cab back to Hans's cottage, I told him everything, and he just burst out laughing, saying,
I'm Leroy, the heir of a millionaire? Oh, please.
I'm serious. You were brought to the foster home exactly 19 years ago, and you both have this one-of-a-kind birthmark.
Okay, so what if I'm really her grandson? I don't even know her, and I'm definitely not rich kid material.
You've been lonely your entire life. This is your chance to find the family you've always wanted. Hans was speechless. It seemed I'd hit his weak spot, and he finally agreed. We asked the driver to take us back to the mansion. But no one was awake at that hour except a gardener. He led us to a library deep into the mansion, brought out tea, and told us to wait. Just a few minutes later, Hans started coughing, and his face swelled up. Oh no, he must have been allergic to something in the tea. Panicked, I screamed for help, and the gardener came back and carried Hans to the car. But then a hand muzzled me from behind, and everything went dark. I woke up with my head pounding and unable to move. As I tried to make sense of the situation, I realized I was tied to a chair, mouth taped, surrounded by some rusty, unsanitary medical tools. And on the other side of the room, Hans was unconscious and tied to a patient's bed. Standing next to him was Agneta and the gardener and a guy in a blouse with some kinds of tools in his hand, about to do something to Hans's birthmark. I tried to scream and struggled to break free, but I couldn't move an inch. Right at that moment, Willard barged in.
Stop this. Leave right now, or I'll call the cops for your unlicensed business. And Mom, I already know everything, so please, have some remorse.
Agneta looked so ashamed of herself. Willard, everything I did it for you. Please understand. You saw how that old hag Primrose treated me. I was so miserable. Then your dad offered to help me.
Dad? You mean Tim? How can he be my dad? Don't be such a wimp, son. I've stayed and worked here like a servant just to be close to you. We did all this so you can be the only heir. You deserve that. Now, finish it.
I can't, Tim.
Get away from my mom, you dirtbag. You never cared about me. You only moved here to manipulate her to do your dirty work. A terrible person like you will never be my dad. Then I'll do it.
As he was about to lay hands on Hans, suddenly there was a meowing sound and Topaz appeared, followed by Madame Primrose. Step away from my grandson. You dared to live under my roof all this time and play foul tricks on my family? Take him away. Luckily, Hans came round, and he had a tearful reunion with his grandma. They finally had the closure they deserved. Hans decided to stay in the mansion with his long-lost family. He's even planted an herbal garden there for treating and healing people, as he always wished. Madame Primrose had finally found peace, as now she had both her beloved grandson and precious cat back. She also thought that maybe she'd been too strict on Agneta, so she decided not to press any charges against her. Agneta had also apologized, but she felt too full of shame to stay and decided to move out of the mansion. Willard followed his mom and helped her start a new life. What about me? Well, I got the thing I've always dreamt of, to be Madame Primrose's apprentice. That's her gift to me for bringing both her cat and her grandson back. And right now, I'm late for a date with a very special guy. Can you guess who it is?
Hello, my name is Louise, but everyone calls me Lou. From the outside, it probably looks like I have the most glamorous life. I come from a rich family. I go to a prominent private college in New York, and I live in a mansion called Plutus Heights with my group of friends. Sounds pretty epic, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to live with a bunch of rich kids? Well, just wait. So many unexpected things were about to happen to me, including my current dreamy boyfriend. And it all started the day I moved into Plutus Heights. Before I dive into all the crazy stuff that happened to me, let me tell you a bit more about myself. My parents run a super successful restaurant chain. From fast food joints to fine dining, they cover it all. Because of this, I've always been interested in the food industry, so that's why I chose to study economics and food industry management. However, there was just one small problem. I was still living at home with my parents, and I have a 5-year-old little brother, so it was pretty distracting. All my friends were living in their own fancy loft apartments, and I wanted that independent life too. Well, lucky for me, it was just around the corner. One day, my dad invited a business friend he'd met earlier that year over for dinner. He was big in the tech world, and my dad loved these kinds of networking dinners. This guy brought his family, and that's when I met Aaliyah. She was the same age as me, and we had so much in common. In fact, she even studied at the same college as me. The best part was that when my dad mentioned that he was looking for a place for me to start living independently, Aaliyah suddenly said, "Lou, oh my god, you should totally move into the mansion I live in." This was what I wanted. I was so scared my parents would say no, but actually, they were totally on board. I think they realized it was time I had my own space. Finally, the day came to move into Plutus Heights. I couldn't believe it when we pulled up outside it. It looked like a palace. Honestly, it was like something out of a European fairy tale. There were pillars and even 2 white lions by the front door. It was crazy. I seriously expected a butler to appear. Aaliyah was waiting by the door for me and gave me the grand tour. I think my jaw almost hit the marble floor. Who would have thought that this mansion was for students to live? The entire interior of this mansion was very luxurious and splendid, but the more she showed me, the more I started to feel uncomfortable. These fancy things just didn't fit me. I wasn't into showing off at all, but it seemed like this palace was built for that reason. But what could I do? I was already there, so I guess I just have to get used to it. As Aaliyah showed me around, she told me about the other students who lived there. Jeremy, Will, and Mark were the 3 guys who owned the place. Well, their parents owned it, but technically it was theirs now. They were all best friends, and Jeremy's girlfriend Naomi also lived there. But Naomi had been uncomfortable with being the only girl, so she'd asked Aaliyah to move in too. Aaliyah's family weren't exactly over the moon about her living with 3 boys and a couple, so they felt much better now knowing that I was going to be living there too. Weirdly enough, my parents were fine about the fact I'd be living with 3 boys. And after a few days living here, I realized that it was totally fine too, because I barely had any contact with the others. It was only after a few months when they threw a welcome party for a newbie called David that I really got to know them. David was Mark's cousin and had just enrolled at our college, majoring in business management. Aaliyah told me that David was quite an extravagant person and came from a seriously rich family. So he thought the first must-do thing was throwing a welcome party for him. I almost laughed. He must be very famous, or really desired to be famous. But to be honest, I'd have hated flashy parties anyway. The party was held on the lawn of the mansion, and Aaliyah had warned me to dress accordingly. And when Aaliyah saw me wearing jeans and a blouse, she immediately dragged me to her room and lent me the most flashy dress I've ever seen. I felt so ridiculous in it. Yes, I was born into the US elite, but it just wasn't my style to wear fancy clothes and show off like this. As soon as we went down to the party, Jeremy, Will, and Mark were already surrounded by a group of girls. Typical, right? What else do you expect from rich, handsome guys? Jeremy is African American and is pretty much John Legend's twin. He barely turned up to class and instead spent most of his time out singing. Actually, he was already pretty famous, and Aaliyah told me he was worth millions already. He was a total babe magnet, and all the girls were swarming around him. Honestly, he was such an attention seeker. I basically rolled my eyes when I saw him. Then there was Mark. At first, I'd been excited to meet him because his family ran an investment company and he was the head of the college's investment club, where he taught people how to invest their money, family money, wink wink, to make smart investment decisions. I immediately joined the club, but I quickly regretted it. Mark was so strict. He made us investigate various companies' financial situations and report back to him. Then, if we got something wrong, he'd call us out in front of everyone. It was humiliating. Loads of people dropped out of the club, and I almost did too. Okay, and I can't forget Will. He was studying engineering, and he always said good morning to me and smiled at me. Seemed to be the most gentle guy here. Out of the 3 guys, he was the only one who really greeted me, and yet that's as far as it went. For some reason, he kept his distance. He smiled, but it felt cold somehow. I figured it was because he basically came from a royal family, and that kindly expression was just glued to their face. You know, to dangerously hide something inside them. Anytime I approached him, he would just smile, then walk away. And it wasn't just me. He showed no interest in any of the girls at the party either. But anyway, that's enough about the boys. The party was now in full swing, and I was standing there all by myself, feeling awkward. I had to find someone to talk to, but Aaliyah was too busy with her friends. Just at that moment, Naomi arrived in the most ridiculous haute couture dress. Oh, I haven't told you about Naomi yet. Okay, so she is basically a celeb. Her whole family are celebs, and she's been a model since she was 15. Unlike her boyfriend Jeremy, she was quite hard to approach. She was really sassy and didn't have much time for anyone, unless they were a celeb too. As soon as Jeremy saw Naomi, he pushed all the other girls away and headed towards her for a kiss. The party was already driving me crazy, and it had just started. I was about to go back to my room when I spotted David sitting alone under a tree on the lawn. I plucked up the courage to go chat to him and asked if he was okay. He said,
What do you think? This is meant to be my party. But just look around. I might as well be invisible.
Then he told me that since college, everything had gone downhill. He was no longer the popular guy he'd once been. I was about to sit down next to him and comfort him when all of a sudden, something smashed. I quickly turned around, and there were 2 girls standing there with shards of a porcelain statue around their feet. The whole party had gone silent, and everyone was just staring in shock. One of the girls came right up to David and yelled out, "You think it's okay to just dump my friend by text and then move right on to the next girl?" David just grinned and said,
She just couldn't satisfy me anymore.
Then the friend of his ex shouted, "Oh boy, you couldn't afford her. What are you expecting?" At that, David went bright red and shouted, "There's nothing I can't afford." I guessed that the girl's comment hurt David's pride because he looked so hurt and angry and started rushing towards her, so I quickly jumped in between them to hold him back. Suddenly, David grabbed my hand and said,
At least I'm with a more mature girl now. Someone who actually deserves me.
I was so embarrassed. Everyone was watching, and I hated being in the spotlight like this. I didn't know what else to do, so I just played along and kept on holding his hand. The girls both looked so shocked and started walking away, but David quickly called out to them.
Oh, by the way, girls, that statue you just smashed, it cost $2 million. You can split the bill. Thanks.
They both just froze and watched as David kissed me on the cheek and pulled me away. I could feel their eyes piercing into my back, and I swear I was shaking. I was so nervous. Also, I might have been kind of nervous because this gorgeous boy was holding my hand and not letting go. For the rest of the party, he kept introducing me to everyone as his girlfriend, getting me drinks from the bar, and always making sure I was okay. No one had ever been so sweet to me before, and before the party was up, I thought to myself that David was actually a pretty cool guy. Not at all how I'd expected him to be. Little did I know that the next day, I'd discover another side to him. I woke up to David knocking on my door. As soon as I saw him, my heart started beating faster. Do you want to come in? I asked him. Then he just winked and said,
Duh, Lou. I couldn't wait to see you again. In fact, would you be interested in going on a date with me? I wanted to thank you for the night.
I could feel my face going bright red. Then I looked at him and said, sure. Why not? Well, let's just say the date wasn't what I had in mind. First, he took me to the mall. I was so confused. Then I realized he must have been embarrassed by my simple clothes. He said he wanted to treat me to some expensive clothes, which annoyed me. That wasn't my style at all. Why was he trying to change me? Then he took me to a club to meet all his friends, and he kept ordering the most expensive bottles of wine. He was just showing off, and I hated it. Then it got worse when a group of beautiful girls arrived. As soon as he saw them, he left me sitting there all alone and started flirting with them. Aaliyah was right. He was nothing but a playboy, and I'd had enough. So much for a date. I told David I wanted to go home, and he got angry. He said I was a spoilsport, and then laughed, saying I didn't know how to have fun. I was furious, so I said to him, "Why did you even invite me on this date? Just so you could show off and pretend you had a girlfriend?" I didn't even wait for him to reply. I just left and took a taxi home. I could barely sleep that night. I felt so annoyed at myself for almost falling for such an idiot. Then the next morning, things got even worse. I went downstairs and found Mark, Will, and Jeremy talking about David. They said he'd been arrested and put in a jail cell. Apparently, he'd been driving drunk, and when the police stopped him and fined him, he got mad and resisted them. So now he was in jail. Mark just laughed and said it was David's problem and that his parents would bail him out. Even though I was angry at the way David had treated me, I still felt sorry for him. I couldn't believe Mark would be so heartless. David is his cousin after all. I asked him which police station David was at, and then I stormed off to go find him. When I arrived at the station, David looked so happy to see me. He was exhausted and said,
"Oh, Lou, I'm so sorry about last night. I was such an ass. Please forgive me."
I still felt kinda mad at him, but I said, "I forgive you. Come on, let's get you home." He kept thanking me, saying how I was the only one who cared enough about him to come bail him out. He said,
"When I throw a party, all my friends come. When I open expensive wine, all the girls want to be my friend. But when I land up in jail, you're the only one sweet enough to come help me."
I told him that was how friends were supposed to act, and he kept smiling at me. And then something crazy happened. Right outside the police station, David turned to me and said,
"Listen, Lou, I like you. I know I just pretended you were my girlfriend, but I couldn't stop thinking about you in the cell last night. I was wondering, will you be my girlfriend? For real?"
I was shocked. I hadn't expected this at all. I mean, what was I supposed to say? I was speechless. If you want to know how I responded, stay tuned for the next episode. Which of my housemates will I end up spending the rest of my life with? Only time will tell.
Hi, I'm Donna, an influencer extraordinaire and soon-to-be supermodel. My family are my biggest supporters. Look, there's my sister Charlotte. Even though my parents are busy running the family corporation, they buy me whatever I want. This includes this spectacular dress for the upcoming Elite Model Look contest. Girls, get ready! We're eating out tonight! Yay! Charlotte just helped Dad secure another business contract, so it's time to celebrate. At the restaurant, Mom, Dad, and Charlotte walked ahead while I showed my 329,587 followers around. My fans even commented that I should compete for Miss USA. Suddenly, someone bumped into me, causing me to drop my phone. Oh no! My live stream's ended, and it's all his fault! Idiot! You ruined my live stream! Now my fans will think I'm rude and unfollow me. Are you walking with your eyes closed? Sorry, I didn't mean to. Let me make it up for you. Donna the Fabulous? Okay, you've just got one more follower. What a jinx. He better stay out of my sight. But as soon as I reached our table, I saw his face again. Why is he here? Donna, this is Matthew, our new finance director. Oh, how important. But not as much as live streaming, right? Who does he think he is? Charlotte even laughed at his stupid joke. Speaking of which, Donna, you're going to study business from now on. Time to stop those modeling, live streaming things. What? But why? You've always supported my dreams before. But Dad just ignored me and chatted with Matthew. Dad was being so unreasonable. Everything was fine until that Matthew guy showed up. Charlotte comforted me and suggested we attend business classes for me while I prepared for the modeling contest. What a brilliant idea! Oh, I love my amazing quick-witted sister. I then put all of my focus into practicing for the contest. But Matthew kept on disturbing me with his nonsense. He even sent me a picture of wedding rings saying, "Are these okay? Think they'll match us?" I frantically called him to ask him what all the gibberish was about. Hasn't your dad told you yet? We're getting engaged and taking charge of the company together. What on earth is this guy saying? Since when was I expected to marry some guy I barely knew and take over a business I had no interest in? Dad should have some explanation for this. Upon arriving home, I confronted Dad, but he just sighed and said he was planning on telling me himself. But you can't just dictate my career and who I marry. Donna, I only want the best for you. But Dad, Donna didn't even attend her business classes and is still indulging in her nonsense fashion club. How can you expect her to handle the company? Oh no, why is she telling him that? Was she trying to help me? She's right, Dad. I have no interest in business at all. I can't. If that's the case, then you can start as vice president and get some hands-on experience. And you, Charlotte, you'll be Donna's personal assistant and support her. No! This is not how you want it to turn out. Dad used to love us both, but now he didn't even listen. Ugh, yes, Charlotte, my savior. She would surely know what to do. I can't believe it. I've tried so hard to prove myself, only to have everything given to a simple-minded fool like you. Simple-minded? That's what you really think of me? Well, I guess I just gotta take my new position to show her how simple-minded I am then. So the next morning, I dolled up and strutted to the company lobby under a different name, Miss Vice President. Huh, look at those gawking eyes wishing they could escape from the boring suits. Matthew was there too, and was he laughing? Suddenly, my heel got tangled up in my dress and I tripped over. What a disaster. Matthew offered me his hand and asked if I was okay. Who needs his help? And all the silly chatters? Just wait and see. And by that, I mean now. Matthew introduced me to the company's core members and announced some new strategic goals for the company. ROI, margin, accounts. Jeez, what kind of language is he speaking? After what seemed like an eternity, he asked if anyone wanted to add anything. Aha! I, of course, couldn't miss a chance to show my leadership. This office is seriously lacking some colors. Violet blinds would be a good start, and some motivational pictures really help boost productivity. Oh, you mean putting up motivational quotes? Oh, please no. Motivation comes from the all-time fashion greats. You know, Bella Hadid, Tyra Banks, Kendall Jenner. Everyone gawped at me, while Charlotte furiously signaled me to stop. Everyone here is so boring. Alright, I'll stop then. My first day was then followed by tedious meetings and schedules. Everyone was talking gibberish and making me sign a bunch of papers. But every cloud has a silver lining, and for a foodie like me, that's dinner meetings. These people really know how to enjoy life, don't they? But before I could even have my first bite, they all started asking me about proposal this and project that. Fortunately, Matthew was there to save the day. Honestly, he seems pretty good at his job, and he's quite attractive when focused. Oh yeah, work. I gotta contribute my own talents at work too. So, the next day, I put the sign on my door, then sat back and watched my favorite fashion show. Ooh, look at those dazzling dresses! One day, I'd be walking the runway in a gown like that, not sitting here surrounded by confusing numbers and papers. Later, when I opened the door, an endless line of people was already waiting for me. Jeez, can't this company with all these brilliant brains function without me? Right then, Charlotte came dragging me away. What happened? Oh gosh, I didn't know that my computer was connected to the meeting room's projector, so everyone had been watching Project Runway with me. Matthew was in the conference room too. Why didn't he fix it?
Okay, everyone. We should thank our cute boss for giving us a lot of ideas for our problems.
He finished the meeting and let them out, but Charlotte was still standing there fuming at me. Cute? There is nothing cute about it. Don't get any wrong ideas that he likes you. Wait for me, Maddie. What is with that attitude? Oh right, I've seen the gooey-eyed look she gives Matthew. Does she have feelings for him? Before I could pry further, I was sent to Milan for another stupid meeting. Feeling bored, I watched a fashion show to kill time when someone startled me from my side.
I personally think this collection is overrated. Oh, sorry if I scared you. I'm Brian.
He then gave me his business card and wow, he's the CEO of a modeling firm in France.
Are you coming to the fashion week too?
I wish. I actually came for work.
Ugh, what a pity. There's a modeling contest this week. I can tell a true beauty like you is destined for the crown.
I missed so many chances to be on the runway. If I make it this time, maybe Mom and Dad will see how serious I am about modeling. This is too amazing of an offer to refuse. Brian, I'm coming with you! At the show, I made sure my phone was off so I could truly immerse myself in all the glamour of the newest fall collection. Brian then kept his word and took me to the audition. I was super nervous at first, but unexpectedly, everyone else looked so amateur. Meanwhile, I strutted like a pro, confident that this time I would get an offer. But for now, reality was calling. As soon as I turned on my phone, a zillion missed calls from Dad and Matthew popped up. This screamed trouble, so I quickly got Brian's contacts and returned home. There, Charlotte went all banshee shrieking mode on me, accusing me of being irresponsible and selfish for skipping the important meeting. Dad, if you don't do something about this, Donna will destroy the company you've worked so hard to build.
That's right. But instead of yelling at her, you should have been there to help out. I'm so disappointed in you, Charlotte.
Oh God. Charlotte's face turned pale immediately. Dad should be scolding me, not her. Feeling a little bad for Charlotte, the next day I went to talk to her, but it sounded like she was arguing with someone inside. I walked in to see Matthew sitting there with loads of pictures of Brian and me. We're still, in Charlotte's words, it looked like we were dating.
A few photos can't change the fact that we're getting engaged.
He then grabbed my hand and pulled me outside, leaving a stunned Charlotte behind. How are you so sure that I'm not seeing someone else?
It's just a feeling. Or maybe it's just my hope because
What did he mean by hope? And holy shrimp, why is my heart beating so crazy? What a day. I thought it was finally over when Dad slammed the pictures of me and Brian down in front of me. He was so mad at me, he decided our engagement would be tomorrow instead of a month, as planned. But I haven't mentally prepared for this. So here I am, at my engagement ceremony, waiting for my fiancé to arrive. Just kidding. Actually, Brian called me last minute to tell me the best news ever. A fashion brand had chosen me as their ambassador. I needed to fly over for some paperwork. Thanks to him, I successfully escaped the engagement and flew to Milan to meet up with him. Finally, I got to pursue my long-repressed dream in my favorite city and not pay heed to my dad's ridiculous orders. Yay! As I woke up the next morning, I eagerly reached for my phone to call Brian, but where was it? I looked at the nightstand, but my passport, my wallet, and all of my stuff had disappeared. I dashed to the reception asking for Brian's room, but they all shook their heads saying there was no one by that name staying there. Frantic, I used their computer and checked the website for his phone number, but it kept saying error. Then I looked up any information about the contest, but found zilch. How could he do this to me? I trusted him. Now I'm in a foreign country, all alone, and with no money. What am I gonna do? I can't just call Dad to come get me. And neither can I call Charlotte. There's only one person I could contact right now. So I called Matthew, and he flew over immediately. We were walking along the Navili Canal to get some dinner before heading back. I thought he would be furious right now because I ran away from our engagement, but he was just quiet the whole time. So, is it okay for you to suddenly come here? I mean, work and stuff, you know?
It's alright. You come first. Everything else comes after.
That's sweet of him, but I needed to make sure he didn't get the wrong message. I called for your help, but that doesn't mean I want to get engaged. I'm not ready to commit.
At first, I wanted this marriage to happen, but now I'm not so sure anymore.
Oh my. Did me running away from the engagement upset him that much? As we stepped through the door, I saw Mom, Dad, and Charlotte waiting for us. Charlotte instantly bombarded me with her dolphin frequency yelling, saying how much they worried about me, how irresponsible and terrible I was.
You should have won an Oscar for your acting, Charlotte. Unfortunately, your partner played you this time.
Acting? And what partner? Turns out Charlotte was the one behind all of this. She hired Brian from the beginning to make me look bad in my parents' eyes. She also made sure my engagement with Matthew didn't go as planned. Everything played out just as she'd wanted, but she didn't think Brian's greed would get the best of him. He called Matthew saying he was holding me for ransom, and during the call, the idiot fraud accidentally brought up Charlotte. We were all too shook to even speak when Charlotte burst out crying. You're right, it was me all along. She's never done anything useful, yet got everything meant for me. Mom, Dad, if you needed someone to take care of the company and marry Maddie, why her? Why not me?
You haven't told them anything this whole time?
I was still processing everything when my dad sighed and said,
I was going to tell you both when the time felt right, but seeing you pitting against each other like this hurts me so much. Actually, Donna, we're not your biological parents.
Turns out, Dad was my parents' private lawyer and the company belonged to my real parents, not to Dad. But then, my parents got into a terrible accident, and during their last minutes, they gave the company, and me, over to him. They asked Dad to raise me properly and arrange for me to marry Matthew as a part of their deal with Matthew's parents. Growing up and seeing me so passionate about modeling, Dad was gonna let Charlotte run the company and let me live my life how I wanted to. But then Matthew and his family showed up and insisted we get engaged according to the deal. Dad had no choice but to respect them and carry out my parents' will. So, my current beloved mom and dad are not my actual family. Worse still, my biological parents had both passed away.
Donna, we hope you understand. Though we're not related, we have always loved you as our daughter. This is very hard for us too.
I looked at Mom and Dad, the ones who had always loved and cared for me. Mom, Dad, just like you two, I'm sure my parents would want me to do what makes me happy. Though I am the lawful heiress of the company, I can only do harm to it. So I hope you understand and let Charlotte take over it. She's a better suit than me.
That's right. You cannot force someone into doing something they don't like. Neither can you force someone into love.
Woohoo! No more boring office job. Instead, I've put all my energy into elite model look. And here I am today. You've got this, Donna. I confidently strutted down the runway with Mom, Dad, and Charlotte cheering from the audience. And when I finished my part, I joined my family and nervously waited for the MC to announce the chosen ones.
Samantha Friske, Amelia Davis, and Donna Rossi!
Yes! I've made it! I've been waiting for this day for so long! Suddenly, I spotted Matthew coming towards us.
Congratulations, Donna. I knew you'd get it.
Thank you for coming.
I know love cannot be forced, nor should I rush it, but whenever you're ready. Donna, will you go out with me?
How about now?
I gripped onto the swing chains and stared down at my feet. Someone was walking over. It was Lydia. "What's up?" she asked as she sat on the swing next to me. "Hey." I managed a weak smile. "It's probably nothing. It's just, my parents have been arguing a lot. Then this morning, Mom smelled some unfamiliar perfume on Dad's shirt and accused him of cheating. Is he really having an affair?" Lydia rubbed my shoulder. "No way! Your dad probably just got caught in a spray mist cloud at the department store or something. You shouldn't jump to conclusions that quickly. Your dad loves your mom, Anyone can see that, so don't worry. I mumbled a yeah in agreement. My name's Cora, and as corny as it sounds, before this incident, I had been pretty satisfied with my life. I'm attending a renowned university. I get along really well with my parents, and despite being an only child, I've never felt lonely, as I have my best friend, Lydia, for company. She's more of a sister to me. Regardless of the problem, I just needed to drop her a message, then we'll meet at our spot, which is the swings at the park. Yep, I had it all, and I thought nothing would ever change that. It turns out that I was wrong. So it all began with my dad. He was acting oddly. He often looked at his phone, then smiled to himself. And then he'd take his phone into the bathroom and not come out for ages. This didn't go unnoticed by Mom, but when she asked him about it, he just shrugged and said that he had some problems with his digestion. Then, while Mom was doing the laundry, she smelt an unfamiliar perfume on his shirt. She marched over to him, threw the shirt at his head, and demanded that he explain himself. Dad denied it and said it was probably just his work colleague's perfume, and that she was overreacting. That's why I arranged to meet Lydia at our spot. And as usual, she was so sweet and supportive. Lydia was right. Maybe I had thought too much. I came home and caught Mom crying in the kitchen. She looked at me with puffy eyes and said, "Something isn't right. I just know it. He doesn't look at me like he used to." I sat down, hugged her, and said, "Mom, let's stop overthinking. I trust Dad. He'll never betray us." I stayed to comfort her for a while, then eventually she calmed down. The next evening, Dad came home with a big bouquet of blue roses, Mom's favorites. Then he cooked dinner for us both as an apology for making us sad. Mom looked touched, and she also apologized for misunderstanding him. I told myself that things would be okay now, right? For the next few weeks, Mom and Dad seemed to be fine. But then, on my mom's birthday, we invited Lydia and her mom Josie over for dinner. My mom was busy in the kitchen, so I took the birthday gift off of Josie for her. That's when I smelt it. Her perfume. It was the same scent that had been on Dad's shirt. I was sure of it. Over dinner, I noticed that Josie kept on looking over at my dad and laughed at all of his dumb jokes. Oh God, was my dad having an affair with my best friend's mom? I felt like I'd explode, but I couldn't say anything to Lydia, as I didn't want to upset her. So I'd do my best to avoid my best friend until I figured things out. This worked for a few days, but then one day after a class, she rushed over to me and said, "Cora, why are you avoiding me?" I pretended not to hear her and kept on walking, but she grabbed my arm and continued. "Did I do anything wrong? Will you please just tell me?" I spilled out, "I'm pretty sure that my dad's having an affair with your mom." At first, she looked shocked, but then she hugged me and kept on apologizing. It was all too much for me, and I burst into tears in her arms. She told me that she'd talk to her mom and find out what was going on. The next day, I met Lydia at our spot. She looked super awkward, then said, "It's true. My mom had a month-long affair with your dad, but she promised that it's over." My world came crashing down around me. I just couldn't believe it. Lydia hugged me and told me it'd be okay. I was so lucky to have such an awesome friend like her. We both decided it'd be best not to tell my mom. The affair was over, so why break my mom's heart now? I tried carrying on like normal, and for the next few weeks, it really felt like everything was okay. Dad was really sweet with Mom, and he even surprised her with a posh dinner out. But then, one afternoon, I saw Dad pacing the garden. He was on the phone with someone, and I heard him say, "Okay, I'm coming now." Then he got into his car and drove off. I decided to follow him, and it soon became clear where he was going. He pulled up in front of Josie's house and then walked straight inside without knocking. My heart sank. So he was still seeing her. Without a second thought, I called Mom and blurted out, "Mom, Dad's having an affair with Josie. I'm there now. Come and join me and we'll confront them together." 5 minutes later, my mom showed up. She looked both sad and furious. We went straight to the front door and banged on it, and I yelled out, Open up! We both know about your dirty relationship! But suddenly, someone spoke behind us. Hey, Laura. Cora? Is everything okay? We turned around and saw Josie standing there with a grocery bag in her hand. I was about to tell Josie to stay away from my dad when Lydia opened the door and gave us confused looks. What are you doing here? Oh, do you want your dad? He's fixing the dishwasher. Then Josie said, Lydia, I told you to call a plumber out to fix it. The plumber said he was fully booked today, so I think that I could ask Mr. Roberts for help. She replied, Oh no! So it turns out I'd misunderstood what was happening and messed everything up. Suddenly, my dad appeared in the doorway and said to us, What's all this banging and shouting about? Right, we're all going home now to talk. As soon as we got home, Dad waved his arms about in anger, then yelled at Mom, You're crazy, jealous, and unreasonable, and I can't be around you anymore. I felt so bad. This was my fault, not Mom's. So I tried explaining this to Dad, but he just told me it wasn't my business and continued to shout at Mom. At first, Mom just sat there silently, but then she quietly said, Is it any wonder I act how I do? I mean, you have been having an affair with my friend. Right. If you keep on being this ridiculous, then let's divorce. Then he stormed off. It was horrible. Now Mom was inconsolable, and I felt awful for telling her. That night, I messaged Lydia to meet up, but she called me instead. She told me that she'd called my dad to ask him for the plumber's phone number, but he said that he'd come and fix it. She also said that Josie and him really were over. Then she hung up. This was kinda odd, but I suppose Lydia was finding it tricky being stuck in the middle of things with her mom and me. I guess I just needed to give her some space until things cooled down. After that, Mom and Dad barely said a word to each other. Talk about tense. Then, one day, Mom decided to move to my grandparents for a few weeks, as she needed time to think everything through. I didn't blame her, but I didn't want to stay home alone with Dad, so I went and stayed with a college friend. One night, I came home to pick up some clean clothes when I saw it for myself. My dad was kissing her on the couch. I couldn't believe my eyes. He was such a liar. So I coughed to clear my voice, then said, Oh, so it's over, is it? They both looked up at me, and that's when my eyes met with hers. Only it wasn't Josie. Nope, it was Lydia. She stammered out, Cora, why are you here? What? Lydia? So my dad had been having an affair with Lydia? How could the girl who was always there for me through high school breakups, bad grade mishaps, and growing pains do this to me? Then Dad put his arm around her and told me everything, that he had never had any affair with Josie. It was Lydia all along, and that they were in love and wanted to get married. It was all too much for me, so I rushed out of there. Lydia ran after me and called out my name. Then when she caught up with me, she grabbed my arm. Cora, wait, I want to explain. Your dad and I interrupted her. Why lie? Why say it was your mom? I'm sorry. I just wasn't ready for everyone to find out then. So I sprayed my perfume on my mom and made up the story that she'd admitted to having an affair with him. As for the dishwasher thing, well, I set that up, as I knew you'd follow your dad and call your mom. I feel bad, but your mom needs to know. He doesn't love her. He loves me. I jerked my hand away and shouted, You're such a liar! You don't deserve to be my friend, and you can't have him! He's with my mom! Suddenly, she changed her attitude, smirked at me and said, Cora, let's accept the truth. Your dad is bored of your mom. Actually, I'll be your stepmother soon, my little daughter. Then she left. I had jello legs, and I was so overwhelmed that it made me feel dizzy, so I sat on the curb and tried to calm myself down. Then I called Mom and told her everything. She cried a lot, but she thanked me for telling her the truth. After that, Mom came home and told Dad she wanted a divorce. Then she demanded that he move out. This was 6 months ago, and it's been hard, but Mom and I are getting there. I haven't spoke to Dad or Lydia since, although I've heard that they're living together. I know I can't avoid them forever, but I just don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them. For now, I'm staying strong for Mom and helping her through this. Then maybe one day in the future, if they contact me, I'll be ready to meet them, and maybe, eventually, find it in myself to let them back into my life.
Finally, my first day at school has come. Yay! This special occasion called for my favorite hoodie. Super cool, right? But then, out of nowhere, I was blocked by a group of boys and their cheesy pickup lines. No time for monkey business, but they wouldn't let me go. Hey, do you know who I am? Everything suddenly went blurry. Oh no, my glasses! I stumbled around trying to grab them back, but got shoved to the floor.
Everyone scram! Gimme that.
I looked up and vaguely saw my hero offering me a hand. He gave me my glasses and I profusely thanked him. But he just gave me a cold look and walked off without saying a word. Strange. Oh, by the way, I'm Hazel Palmer, 17 years old. But I'm not here as a student, but a teacher. Yes, you heard it right. Not to brag, but I'm kind of a genius. I even got offered a position in my college's research project, which I have rejected to pursue my dream of becoming a high school teacher. So here I am, on my very first day of fulfilling it. First, I was introduced to the other teachers, but unlike what I had in mind, they just threw me judgy looks. Luckily, after the meeting, a young teacher named Rebecca kindly welcomed me and even tipped me off about some of the rebels at school. Now, time to meet my students. As soon as I finished my introduction, the whole class immediately turned into a beehive.
Miss, how about we continue this lesson at the movies tonight?
Mullet, pierced nose. This guy must be the notorious Lucas that Rebecca warned me about. Please, as if you'd date someone who would wear such a goofy hoodie. Yeah, who let a weeaboo teach here? Jeez, I didn't expect this reaction. I tried to restore the silence, but to no avail. Ugh, I'm out of patience. Quiet, or else you'll all get Fs. Thank God it worked. Whew, that'll show them who's in charge. But here comes another problem. No way! There's gotta be someone who's really here to study, right? Okay, who is our class's top student?
Ethan!
Ah, didn't he help me in the hallway? But it looked like he didn't recognize me. Okay, let's see. Ethan, right? Could you solve this equation? Equation? Equation.
I suppose spelling is a bit hard for a numbers person like you.
And the whole class burst into laughter. Jeez, this guy was unbelievable. How about the second best student? Cassie Santiago? That name sounded just like my old classmates. I turned to the corner where an arm reluctantly raised. Oh my, it's her! So good to see a familiar face here. But why is she avoiding me? That afternoon, while walking to my car, I saw Cassie and her friends picking on a girl. Upon seeing me, they immediately ran away, but I managed to catch Cassie. Cassie, since when did you become a mean girl? None of your business. Report me to the principal if you like. Then she strutted away, leaving me standing there confused. Since when had the sweet Cassie ended up on the dark side? Turned out, not long ago, Cassie's father passed away in an accident, leaving her to live with her stepmother. This must have left her in so much grief that she put up this cold, reckless facade as a defense mechanism. That's so sad. So, to make Cassie feel included, and also to improve this whole class's performance, I came up with a master plan. More homework, not finished, minus points. And every lesson will come with a gift, a test during recess, and I asked Cassie and Ethan to help the other students. But when I called Cassie to the board, strangely, she couldn't do a simple equation. At first, I thought that it was just her being rebellious, but during the test that day, I noticed her copying Ethan's answers. Does that mean all her A's were from cheating? Not only that, the even shocker thing I found out was that Ethan was her stepbrother. After class, I came to talk to her, but she didn't pay me any attention. Cassie, I know the secret behind your A's. High scores mean nothing when they're not from your own hard work. But out of my business. You're as much my friend as you are a proper teacher. I'd be pleased to tutor you. How about today? See you in the library after school. As if I care. Her words did hurt, but I guess she was just trying to keep her cold image. So I still waited for her, but she never showed up. No matter how much I tried, Cassie ignored me and kept cheating. During the midterm test, she even blatantly snatched Ethan's paper. It's true she's my friend, but I couldn't let it slide any longer, so I dismissed her test. That had to be done. On the same day, while I was in the library searching for materials, I heard familiar voices talking. Ms. Palmer is way too much. She even dismissed Cassie's test today. Can you believe this? Why can't she be understanding like you? Cut her some slack, Sadie. She's just doing what she thinks is best. So that's what my students really thought of me? After everything I did to try and help them, yet all I got back was bad-mouthing? And Rebecca was so nice to defend me like that. No wonder they liked her. A few days later, the unexpected happened. Cassie, Lucas, and a few others came and asked for extra lessons. Finally, they started to have another eye on studying. But little did I know that it's just a ruse from my dear students to turn the following days into a nightmare. And the instigator was Lucas, I supposed. One day, I almost fainted upon finding a huge ant nest inside my bag. The other day, my pants were stuck to the chair with some gum. Fortunately, Ethan always showed up in time to help me. He's such a riddle. Unlike before, not only did he try to defend me in class, but he also helped me carry my textbooks. But I didn't expect him to care that much. One time, I saw him at the car wash where I worked part-time. I quickly hid behind a car, but Ethan just kept walking towards my wash box.
I'm here to see you, so no need to hide. Let me give you a hand.
After my shift, Ethan took me home. We talked a lot, and I felt comfortable enough to tell him about my mom's health condition and how I took this part-time job to cover her hospital fee. This side of him was far different from the normal, and it was heartwarming. Suddenly, we noticed an elderly lady who seemed lost, so we offered to take her home. And guess what? She's the grandma of the notorious Lucas. I was truly surprised by how much of a rebel like Lucas cared for his Nana. I could tell he really loved her a lot. Poor boy. She's the only family he got now. Lucas, I know studying is not your thing, but have you thought about how happy your grandma would be if you at least tried? Since then, Lucas stopped causing me any mischief, and so did the other students. Now they could even do simple math themselves. Baby steps. Seeing my effort finally bore fruit, I set up a parent meeting to report students' progress. Halfway through my presentation, a photo of me cosplaying as Sailor Moon popped up on the screen. Oh my god, why is it here? How dare you let this childish thing teach my kids? Then she stormed off, followed by everyone else. I thought I finally had my students on my side. Turns out I never did. Then came the last straw, my mom's medical test results. I couldn't help but cry, letting all my bottled up emotions out. Then, suddenly, a hand laid on my shoulder.
What's wrong?
My mom's health turned worse, and she needs an urgent operation.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's all gonna be okay. Be strong, Miss Palmer.
I appreciated him comforting me, and when I felt a bit better, we decided to leave. But the door was locked from the outside. It must have been a prank from my students. Again! We tried banging the door and screaming for help, but eventually gave up and waited for someone to come. This quiet atmosphere sure does have a way of making people open up, and I got to know about Ethan.
Seemed like both of us have problems with our beloved family.
What's yours?
I have a sister. You know who. That I really adore. But no matter how hard I try, she always builds a wall between us.
Oh, wasn't this the first time Ethan talked about his personal life? He always put on a cold and distant mask. But I knew deep down he had his struggles too. I was so absorbed in his story that I forgot about being locked up and gradually fell asleep until a buzzing sound startled me, and countless phone cameras were pointing at us. Guys, check your phones. Look what Miss Palmer and Ethan have been doing this whole time. Oh my! A bunch of photos of me and Ethan had been uploaded on the school website, and from some angles, it looked like we were kissing. Oh no! I tried to explain, but they just threw me a disgusted look. And why was Ethan just standing here saying nothing? This soon reached the principal. He told me there would be a case hearing for inappropriate relationship with a student. How was this even possible? As I dragged my feet to the principal's office, suddenly I heard familiar voices shouting.
Why did you do that?
I told you to find her weakness, and look what you got. Nothing.
I've done everything I could. What else do you want?
Everything? Then why is she still here? As long as she's around, she messes up our cheating stuff, and Mom will get my head chewed off for being useless at school. Or is that what you want, brother? What? So, Cassie had been pulling the strings this entire time? And Ethan was her puppet, befriending me just to please his sister. I knew she hated me, but did Ethan have to be so heartless too? Cassie then caught my eye, so I ran away. I was still trying to process this when I walked in to see the school council glaring at me.
You're an insult to the teaching profession, which leaves us no choice.
I was ready for the worst when Ethan rushed in.
Stop! It was me who deliberately jammed the classroom's lock to get back at her for being too strict, but I accidentally got stuck too. There's nothing going on between us.
And so, I was cleared of all charges, and Ethan ended up in a week-long suspension. Why did he do that after all? After such a long trial, I drove around town to blow off some steam, then saw Cassie fighting with a security guard. I found out that Cassie stole a bracelet and was refusing to call her parents. The guard said he'd have to call the cops, so I came forward as her teacher to bail her out. Cassie asked me why I helped her, but I didn't bother explaining myself and just left. Since that day, Cassie didn't attend the extra classes. After his suspension, Ethan returned with his offhand attitude. No time to worry about those two. My mission now was to prepare my students for the upcoming finals and regain my prestige. Luckily, they started to take studying seriously and invested a lot in these tests. One day, when I walked into class, some students even asked me to help solve advanced exercises. 2 weeks later, when the results came, my excited students all rushed over to me. Miss Palmer, thanks to you, the questions were the same as the ones you showed us the other day, so it only took us a blink to finish. What are they talking about? Before I could understand, the principal summoned me to his office. As I entered, he angrily showed me the math sheet that I was allegedly teaching in the extra class.
What kind of work ethic allows leaking exam questions, Miss Palmer?
Leak the test? Me? No! Please!
No more excuses. You're fired.
No! They can't punish me for something I didn't do. Someone must have framed me. I asked my students where they got that piece of paper, and they said it was already on the table when they came to class. So Cassie and Ethan must have been behind this. Good job, Ethan, for putting up their remorse act just to set up a bigger plan to humiliate me. Okay then, they won. Unemployed and desperate, with hospital bills to cover, I had to work full-time at the car wash, as well as taking night shifts at 7-Eleven. But besides the measly wages was a bonus of rotten eggs and tomatoes, scornful looks, and snarky comments saying I didn't deserve the teacher title. The scandal truly turned my life upside down. Then, when I was at the hospital with my mom, suddenly Ethan rushed in and said he would clear my name. Clear my name? Wasn't he the one who put dirt on me? What was he playing this time? With nothing to lose, I reluctantly went with him. He led me to the school's control room. The principal was also there. Then I saw Sadie standing on stage. Ethan said it was her who discreetly put the math sheet on the table. What? But, Rebecca? I distributed the test like you said, but I'm scared. What if someone finds out? Don't worry, now that Miss Palmer's fired, who else can dig this up? I'm only taking back my position as the beloved teacher who can take cover for y'all. No, I have to tell the principal everything. Who would believe you?
I would.
Furious, I rushed over to the stage and confronted her. Rebecca, I thought you were my friend. How could you? Don't ask me. Ask your phony self. Weren't you just trying to get the students to like you? What nonsense was she saying? I'm just doing my part of being a good teacher. How could she be so selfish and cruel? Out of jealousy?
Miss Palmer earned her students' respect with her pure heart. Look at you. The so-called love you have comes from buttering them up with all your lies. That's why they turned stubborn and make light of studying. I never knew you were that kind of person. How could you call yourself a teacher?
The principal couldn't hide his rage, fired Rebecca, then apologized to me and offered me my job back. But after all these troubles, this school had completely drained me. I couldn't take it anymore, so I refused. As I was wiping away my tears, Ethan came to my side.
Miss Palmer, I'm sorry for everything I did. I just tried to please Cassie, but now I know I was only hurting you.
I've already known about that. I was about to leave when a group of students led by Cassie approached us. Then Ethan told me it was Cassie who helped him with the plan to bait Rebecca into admitting her actions. Sorry for all the horrible things I did to you. Please stay.
We've learned a lot since you moved here. Please don't leave us.
Such a crazy term. I ended up staying. I mean, this is my dream job after all, and I'm not one to give up that easily. I also talked to Cassie's stepmom about her studying. Turns out she didn't realize her strict approach was causing a rift between them all. Cassie, Ethan, and their mom had to talk, and now they seem to understand each other better. I was so happy for them, and we became friends after that. Time flies, and now my students, or my friends to be correct, graduated, and would soon fly off to pursue their own dreams. Suddenly, Ethan dragged me to a corner.
So from now on, we're no longer teacher and student, right?
I guess? But
could you still teach me? Teach me how to love you.
You see that sad girl sitting there in a flood of tears? Yeah, I know, she's pretty hard to miss. Well, that was me a few months ago. My boyfriend had literally just broken up with me, and I had to pack my stuff out of his place ASAP with a resentful heart. But thinking back, if he hadn't broken my heart, I wouldn't have fallen into this super awkward and ridiculous situation. Oh, I forgot. I'm Ava. I'm 22 and I suck at love. So anyway, after crying like a newborn, I realized I needed a trip away to free my mind, just like Julia Roberts' character did in the movie Eat, Pray, Love. But I could only afford to do the low-budget version. So I went on Airbnb and found a reasonably priced room to rent in this idyllic beach house. And it gets even better. The owner, Hazel, is out most of the time, so it would be like renting the whole house with the price of one room. Awesome! Reserved! I needed to get out of this emotional hellhole ASAP. As expected, Hazel wasn't home when I arrived, and I had to find the hidden key under a plant pot by the door and let myself in. And oh my, it was like stepping into a life-size retro dollhouse. From the chic furniture to the funky wallpaper, I loved it here. This Hazel girl has got some taste. Ooh, there was even a record player. If I'd have known, I would have brought my vinyls with me. But hey, her collection wasn't too shabby. I have to admit that the idea of having a cool friend like this Hazel girl sounded pretty awesome. I was determined to actually meet her because, yeah, it's been 5 wonderful days staying here and I still haven't run into her. So one night, I settled down in the living room and watched a movie while waiting for her to come home. She eventually showed up at 2 a.m. Ugh, this girl wasn't kidding about coming home late. I greeted her and said, "Hey, I saw you have an Exacta 35mm film camera. That's so cool. Also, would you mind if I take a look at your vinyls?" She looked a bit confused and replied, "I have a what?" "Oh, you mean those rusty old things? They're my brother's. I doubt he'd mind. He always talks to me non-stop about them. So I think he'd be happy there's someone in this house who speaks the same language as him." Ha! Oh, they're her brothers? How very interesting. This got me thinking. Is he handsome? And what about his personality? Is he an arty type with a kind soul? Daydreaming about this mystery guy became a regular occurrence for me. Oh gosh, was I crushing on a guy I'd never even met? How desperate was I? One day I came home from grocery shopping. I was totally exhausted. So I threw the groceries in the kitchen and jumped straight onto the pile of blankets on my bed. Only it wasn't just the simple blankets. What? Someone was under them. We banged heads. Ouch! I removed the blankets to catch this pervert out. Huh? I know this guy. It was my ex. What in God's name was he doing here? Oh, for the record, this wasn't my current ex. This was Nolan. We used to date back in high school, but I'd not spoken to him in a long time. So it turns out he's Hazel's mystery brother. Ew. This whole time I'd been accidentally crushing on my jerky ex-boyfriend. This made sense now, as we always did have lots in common, but ugh. Thank you, universe, for ruining my vacation. With a dagger stare, I asked him why he had the audacity to be napping in my bed. He snorted, then said, "Your bed? This is my house, and my room. The question is, what are you doing here?" Reluctantly, I explained everything to him, and it turns out he was meant to be away on a 2-month business trip.
so Hazel put his room on Airbnb without asking him. The problem being, he came back early. He just shrugged and said, "But I'm home now, so can you please take your stuff and get out of here? I'll get Hazel to refund you or whatever." This made me mad. I'd paid for the room. I had rights, so I was staying put. So I told him, "I'm not going anywhere. You'll just have to sleep on the couch." He didn't seem happy about it. In fact, he grumbled to himself as he left the room. But at least he left. I thought this would be it, but oh, how wrong I was. And that's when the war for the bedroom began. The next morning, I awoke to hear these weird squawking noises. Then I felt something flap in my face. Sleepily, I tried to whack it away and opened my eyes. Staring back at me was this massive gull. Ugh! Nolan! There were about a dozen of them hanging out in my room, all pecking and flapping around my stuff. It took me over an hour to shoo them out of the window. Afterward, I was so mad that I locked myself in the bathroom. After 30 minutes, Nolan thudded on the door. He urgently needed to use it. I opened the door with a smirk on my face and brushed past him. I soon heard his disgruntled shouts. Yep, I'd wrapped the toilet paper with duct tape. Ha! I wasn't done with him yet, so that evening I hid some cookie crumbs on the couch, and he woke up the next day covered in ant bites. He was like a real-life ... Yes, it's 2-1, loser. This went on for a couple of days. Nolan switched the toaster settings, so my breakfast was ruined. Yuck. So I sneakily downloaded a fake cracked screen app on his phone and placed it on the floor. When he picked up his phone, he totally freaked out and started blaming his dog. It was so funny. All this pranking was exhausting, so I was kind of relieved when Nolan went out one night, and I could just chill on the couch and watch a movie. Suddenly, the power went out. Great. The switch must have tripped or something. I put on the torch on my phone and was about to go and check it out when my phone rang. All I could hear was someone deep breathing into it. What the hell? I hung up and my body started to shake. All of a sudden, the door burst open and Ghostface was standing there. Terrified, I held my head and screamed like a banshee. But then I heard somebody call my name. "Ava! Ava! It's me, Nolan. It's okay." I was so relieved to see him that I jumped into his arms and cried into his sweater. "Please don't cry. I've got you," he said in a soft voice while he held me. I felt so secure and safe. What was that he was holding in his hand? It was a ghost face mask. It was him! He knew I hated horror movies. What a jerk! I pushed him away and shouted, "What the hell? Are you crazy?" He just smiled and replied, "It was worth it, 'cause the hug was so sweet." Man, I hate this jerk. After that, I avoided him. So, okay, I did catch myself looking over at him and getting this weird, warm feeling. One time, he was playing with his dog on the beach, and I watched on from the porch. Did I have a crush on my ex? My God, I hope not, 'cause that would be pathetic. But I had to admit that, although his pranks were really annoying, they'd also been kind of fun. It made me reminisce on the old days when we were together, and we were so happy back then. But nothing lasts forever. Hazel appeared with 2 cups of coffee, and we started chatting. I told her how annoying her brother was. She laughed, then replied, "I know, sorry. I didn't know you guys used to date. I wouldn't have rented the room to you if I had. I get that it must be awkward for you, especially as you were the one who broke up with him, right?" I did what? He was the one who broke up with me because he was moving away at the time and couldn't handle the long-distance relationship. And worse, he did it over a freaking letter. She looked at me confused, then said, "Oh, that's peculiar, as he told me he wrote you a letter telling you about his feelings. Then you shouted at him that it was over." I replied, "Part of his letter said, 'I love you and all, but this long-distance stuff is like madly scary.' So it kind of seemed obvious to me that he wanted to end things." She shook her head. "No, I swear he just wanted to tell you how much he loved you. But obviously, my dearest brother totally sucks at writing. What an idiot! I told him he should have let me proofread his dumb love letter. So, it turns out our breakup had all been a misunderstanding. I mean, come on, who writes love letters anymore? Anyway, the past was the past, so I decided it was best to leave it there. Besides, I only had a few days left here. On my last day, I packed my things and said goodbye to Hazel. I had to admit that I was really gonna miss it here. Nolan was nowhere to be found. He must be celebrating because he finally had his room back. Whatever. It's not like I needed to say goodbye to him. I took a cab to the train station. On the way, I couldn't shake Nolan out of my head. He needed to know the truth about the breakup. I couldn't let him think that I was a cruel person back then. "Stop! Turn around!" I shouted out to the cab driver. I ran back into the house. Hazel stared at me in shock. Why aren't you at the train station?" Oh, wow. I couldn't believe they wanted to get rid of me so fast. I was about to leave when Hazel continued. "Nolan just took a cab there to talk to you. Let me call him." Nolan answered the phone and asked me to meet him at a lighthouse nearby. Oh gosh, I was so nervous. What did he want to tell me? Maybe Hazel had told him about our convo the other morning. I spotted him. He was holding something. Gee, I hoped it wasn't another letter. He blushed while looking at me. Then he said in a shy voice, You forgot something in my room." Then he handed me a bag. I opened it, and there was my lingerie! Oh, great! How could I forget them? So he wasn't going to tell me anything. But wait a minute. These weren't mine. And they still had the tags on. He giggled and said, "Sorry, I swear that was the last prank. I just needed a reason to see you. Hazel told me everything. I don't blame you for our breakup. I blame my poor writing skills. The point is, I love you. I just love you. You're the only girl I've ever loved. Still to this day. I've never loved anyone else." Oh gosh, I couldn't believe it. Although I was pretty sure he'd just quoted that from a movie or series or something. As we all know, he sucks with words, and it sounded familiar. Anyway, I threw the bag of lingerie in his face and then wrapped my arms around him. So, from then on, the room war stopped. Not because I was leaving, but because we became roommates. Let me tell you this. Actually, there's not much to tell. Only, when your boyfriend writes you a letter, please make sure you read it very carefully. Actually, scrap that. Just tell him to get with the times and to text you.
Hi, I'm Belle. I'm 18, and today is my first day at Boston College. Isn't that cool? Oh, wait. I think I hear someone crying. Why don't we go shopping? It'll make you feel better. No, I don't want anything. Just leave me alone. Wait, that sobbing girl, she looked so familiar to me. Is that her? What are you looking at? The other girl snapped at me. Geez, why so serious? The next day I decided to do the neighborly thing, so I brought an apple pie over to her. The door opened and whoa, she looked like she'd tackled a tornado. Her hair and clothes were messy and her eyes were swollen. Oh, hi, I'm Belle. I just moved here. Nice to meet you. Oh, hi, I'm Laura. Yes, Laura! Laura from elementary school. How could she not know it was me? Then my childhood memories started flushing back to me. Back then I was super shy because my family had financial problems. I was always in worn clothes. I guess this made me an easy target for some mean kids. Then one day when I was walking home from school, those kids followed me, pushed me over, then started laughing as they searched through my backpack. But then a luxurious car pulled up alongside us, and Laura peered through the window and said to them, "Leave her alone, else I'll revoke your invites to my party." After that, Laura left before I could even thank her, and the mean kids hurried off. Through my young eyes, I saw her as an angel. She was pretty and popular, but she'd still stopped to help me. Unfortunately, right after that incident, my parents thought it was best to transfer me to another school, and I never saw Laura again. Well, until now. Thanks for the apple pie. Come in if you want. Oh, yes, if you don't mind. I walked inside and oh my, her room was a mess. There were clothes everywhere, trash on the floor, and dirty dishes overflowing in the basin. Something bad must have happened to her to get her this down in the dumps. So I asked her what was up, and she told me her boyfriend had just broken up with her. The worst part was she left her family and friends behind to move here for him. But then he ended things without even giving her an explanation. Poor Laura. The breakup was over 2 months ago, but it still seemed to be fresh in her mind. I tried comforting her, but the more I did, the more she cried. The next day, I decided to swing by and check if she was okay. The door was ajar, so I peered inside and saw a glum-looking Laura sitting on the floor, hugging and sniffing something. Laura? What are you doing? I found this, and I just miss him so much. Oh. Turns out she was looking through her closet for her sweater and ended up finding her ex's hoodie. That's it. Enough was enough. It was time I finally returned the favor and saved Laura just like she'd saved me back in 5th grade. You'll never move on if his things are staring you in the face. I told her it was time to get her ex's belongings. And you know what? She had a whole big box of his stuff. I took a look, and that's when I saw a photo of them. This is him? I couldn't hide my surprise. Yeah, that's Cameron, my boyfriend, or should I say my ex? Why do you ask? Oh, nothing. Just thank God you're not together anymore. The word jerk is written all over his face. Then we threw the whole box in the dorm's dumpster downstairs. The poor girl looked like she wanted to jump right in there to retrieve it. I'm going to help you get over this guy. I promise. You're about to discover just how fun being single can be. Oh, you're single too? Yeah, of course. Now that her ex's stuff was in the trash where it belonged, it was time to live our best happy single lives. Each morning, I dragged Laura jogging around the park with me and showed her how to prepare delicious, healthy meals. Can you believe that she didn't even know how to boil an egg without burning the pot? Yep, I know. It's shocking. Then one time, her basin blocked up, and she was totally freaking out. I came to the rescue with my trusted plunger and showed her how to fix it. Easy peasy. And best of all, no man was needed to save these damsels. Next, I needed to show Laura how to enjoy life because all she seemed to do was slump around her room. So, on Saturday night, I dragged her and Kayla to this really cool bar. Man, I'm thirsty. Martinis? My treat. Hold up, Laura. Do you want to know how to get free drinks? And then I told her to walk past some guys, flip her hair, and wink at them with the cutest smile on her face, and bam! Just like that, we had drinks bought for us. Laura seemed very happy with what she just accomplished, and that made me happy too. Only Kayla didn't look so thrilled about it. Maybe her martini tasted too bitter. While we were having fun, my phone suddenly rang. Oh my God. I've been longing for that call. But why now? I put it on silent and continued chatting. Why aren't you answering? Oh, it's nothing. Are you sure? Seems important. Yeah, no worries. Before I could finish my sentence, I suddenly heard someone calling Laura. Laura? Oh, Jack! Hi, it's been so long. I'm surprised to see you here. Are you alone or with friends? Before Laura could introduce us, the guy stared at me. Hey, I think I know you. Nah, I don't think we've ever met. I immediately denied it. But this guy was so insistent, he kind of made me uncomfortable, that I accidentally knocked over my glass. Then I had to make a mad dash to the bathroom to clean myself up. Anyway, that night was great. I was kind of proud of myself for proving to Laura that being single wasn't so bad after all. But then, the very next morning, disaster struck. Kayla ordered me into Laura's room, where she was curled up on her bed, holding a photo of her and Cameron. Ugh, so much for getting rid of all reminders of him. Laura sobbed out that Jack told her that Cameron was seeing someone else, and now Kayla had come up with an idea to get revenge on him. I know this hurts, but please, just ignore him and move on with your life. Pfft, What do you know? Are you on Laura's side or her jerky ex's? I just ignored Kayla and tried to talk to some sense into Laura. Thank God she seemed to listen to me and cancel the revenge plan. Oh boy, Kayla looked furious. I went back to my dorm and let out a relieved sigh. Then suddenly my phone got an incoming message. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Okay, the truth is, I'm seeing this guy who I like loads, but I didn't want to rub Laura's face in it, so I haven't mentioned it to her. The next morning, I put on a cute dress, did my makeup, styled my hair, and excitedly stepped out of my dorm room to find stacks of trash bags in front of my door. Who on earth did this? I dragged them downstairs to put them in the dumpster, when I found all my mail in there covered in trash juice. Ew. Was this a prank or what? Whatever, I didn't have time for this. I was already late. I arrived at a gallery and saw that he was already here looking at a painting. Hey, sorry for being late. He turned around with a smile. Well, you're worth the wait, you know. Okay, please let me explain. So, yep, that's Cameron, but it's not what you think. I met him the other month as he was helping out at an event for new students. He didn't care that I wore thrift store clothes and that my sneakers weren't cool. Instead, he saw past these things and started talking to me first. So Jack was there too, which is why he sorta recognized me. I've been texting Cameron loads, and I must confess, I think I do have feelings for him. But don't get me wrong, I didn't know Laura was his ex until I saw the photo of them. Oh boy, that sure shocked me to the core. I didn't want to tell her and not only break her heart all over again, but also destroy our friendship. That's also why I didn't care to answer Cameron's call in front of Laura when we were at the bar. And I was super lucky that Jack didn't recognize me that night, or it would have been a total disaster. I know I needed to tell Laura the truth, but first she just needs a little more time to get over Cameron. Ugh. I went home from the date with a big smile on my face, but what I saw made it instantly fade. My entire makeup collection was smashed up. What? Who would do something so mean? It took me ages to save up to buy all that. As I checked to see if any of it was salvageable, I saw a long blue hair nestled amongst the carnage. Furious, I was about to go confront her, but Kayla and Laura had already appeared in my doorway. Why did they look so angry? How could you befriend me like that when all along you were seeing my ex? So your "you don't need a man" speech was all just one big lie so you could take my guy, huh? And do you really think Cameron would like a girl like you? You can't even afford a decent handbag. Right. Let me tell you this. You will never be like one of us, and you'll never be good enough for Cameron. How could Laura think of me like that? I truly wanted to help her, like she'd helped me. I totally only have good intentions, Laura. I had no idea he was your ex when we first met. The only reason I didn't tell you sooner was because I knew you needed more time to heal. And I didn't want to hurt you because I adore you and value our friendship. Do you remember 5th grade? I was being teased by these kids and you were the only one who stood up for me. I just wanted to return the favor and help you too. But hearing you say that stuff makes me so sad. After that, I shooed them out of my room and locked the door. I refused to go to lectures and ignored all Cameron's calls and messages. Maybe Laura and Kayla were right. Cameron and I weren't meant to be. We were from 2 different worlds. Eventually, a few days later, I had to go outside. Well, because I ran out of food. When I passed by a coffee shop, I saw them, Cameron and Laura, sitting together. So Kayla was right. A rich guy like Cameron would never like an ordinary girl like me. I couldn't live in the same dorm as Laura anymore, so I was packing my stuff to move out of there. Suddenly, I heard Laura's voice. Are you running away from your problems like I did? I ignored her and continued packing. You know, I met Cameron and we had a long talk. He finally told me why he broke up with me. It was because I was too dependent on him and I couldn't do anything on my own. But you helped me stand on my own feet. And for that, I can never thank you enough. Laura, I honestly always wanted to tell you the truth. I know, but it doesn't matter anymore. You know, the important thing now is to enjoy my independent single life, right? Oh, I got you these. Kayla was way out of line destroying your things. Also, I think there's someone who wants to see you. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. I opened it and, oh my God, standing there with a huge bouquet of flowers was Cameron. So it looks like I can continue getting to know Cameron now, and I don't have to move out anymore. But do you know what the best part of all is? I have my friend back. It was a normal, boring day in the grocery store. I was stacking milk in the fridge when Camilla, my coworker, came and said, "Layla, you have to help me. I have this date tomorrow night, but I'm busy. Could you please go instead?" Wait, what? I don't even know your date. Besides, I have a boyfriend. Lincoln, remember? Then she began explaining to me about this dating service, and she assured me it was 100% legit. It was mainly lonely men who just wanted some company. All I had to do was talk to them, and of course, there was a strict no hugging or kissing policy. At the end of the date, they'd pay me. No thanks. No way I was gonna do that. After my shift, I went home to see my landlady lingering in my doorway. She started yelling at me that I still owed her 5 months' worth of rent, and if I didn't pay it by the end of the week, she'd kick me out. I begged her to give me more time, but it was pointless. My God, what to do? Where could I get that much money on such short notice? Oh, wait a minute. What about Camilla's dating service? It looks like I was out of choices, so I called her and agreed to go on the date. So here I am, on my weird date night. I put the most basic dress I could find on. Oh boy, I sure felt nervous. I have no idea what to say and how to act. Oh, that must be him. My God, Camilla! How could she forget to mention that the guy was in his 50s? People would think he's my sugar daddy. Ugh! Keep it together, Layla. I couldn't back out now, as my home depended on it. So, I slowly approached the man. At first, he looked surprised. That figures. I mean, he was expecting Camilla. I explained the situation to him, and he wasn't mad or anything. He just smiled at me, and we started chatting. He's called Mr. Hall. He lost his wife 2 years ago, and ever since then, he's been feeling lonely and needed someone to talk to. So that's why he started using this service. He was actually pretty easy to talk to, so the night quickly went by without any problem. After the date, he handed me an envelope and told me how grateful he was to me for listening to his burdens. I was itching to go home and open the envelope, but then he started going on about his heartbroken son. Suddenly, he was asking me if I'd talk to him. Obviously, I refused as this was a one-time thing to help out Camilla. Besides, I have a boyfriend. Speaking of which, he'll be so furious if he ever finds out about this. The next day, I paid the landlady 2 months' rent and assured her I'd have the rest with her soon. But to my shock, she just scowled at me and forced me to pay all at once. Well, guess where I am now? In a cafe, waiting for Mr. Hall and his son. Ugh. Oh, there he is. And that must be his son. Geez, could he look any more annoyed? Hi, I'm Layla. Nice to meet you. Save it. I'm only here because he forced me to. So just let's get it over with. Layla, thank you for coming. This is my son, Leon. Please don't mind his attitude. Then Mr. Hall left us alone. Man, Leon was hard work. Any questions I asked him, he just shrugged or snorted. Then, when he finally spoke, he sarcastically said, "So, Layla, I hope the money's worth it." What? How rude! Then he continued, "You must be desperate. Don't you feel ashamed of yourself?" Ugh! He was the rudest person I'd ever met. But, yes, I was desperately in need of money. So I took a deep breath and started telling him about myself. When time ran out, I said goodbye to him and left. What an unpleasant experience, but at least that was the end of it, right? Wrong, as Mr. Hall asked me to meet him several more times. Who was I to argue? I mean, I needed the money. But Leon was getting on my nerves, as all he did was slouch in his seat, slurp his drink, and say nothing. So, it was down to me to do all of the talking. I began telling him all sorts of things, about my past, my family, and friends, and even about my future plans. And Leon just sat there listening to everything, supposedly. Luckily, it finally ended, and Mr. Hall paid me so I never had to meet Leon again. Because the last few weeks had been taken up with dating Mr. Hall and his son, I hadn't seen much of Lincoln. So, at the weekend, I invited him over to mine and cooked for him. We were sitting on the couch hugging while watching a movie when Lincoln said, in a serious tone, "Layla, we need to talk." But then suddenly my phone rang. It was Mr. Hall. I quickly rushed to the balcony to pick up. He wanted me to be Leon's +1 at his eldest son's wedding, and he was willing to pay double? Ugh, that sounded awful, but besides rent, I also had to pay for college fees and food, and my measly income from the grocery store didn't come close to covering it at all, so I reluctantly agreed. When I returned inside, I asked Lincoln what he wanted to tell me. He hesitantly said that he had to go on a business trip for 2 weeks. Well, maybe it was for the best, so I could go with Leon without worrying about my boyfriend. Ugh, I felt so guilty. I swear this would be the last time I was going to do this. Leon arrived to pick me up, and as soon as he saw my dress, he insisted I couldn't wear such an ugly thing. Ugh, he was so rude. I told him I had nothing else suitable, so he drove me to a dress boutique, then told the staff to bring the most beautiful dress in store to try on. Oh my, it was stunning. I was overwhelmed when I saw myself in the mirror. Well, I definitely looked amazing in it, and Leon must be thinking that too, 'cause he couldn't take my eyes off me. It's such a shame I can't afford it. But then before I could stop him, he went ahead and paid for it. How frustrating. I was sitting in the church waiting for the wedding to start, while Leon flirted with some girls. Thank God Lincoln wasn't like that jerk. Then everyone went to their seats and the wedding began. The groom walked to the altar in this luxury-fitted suit. Man, it must be so nice to be rich. But is that Lincoln? My Lincoln? Our eyes met, and he looked as shocked as I did. But instead of running to me and explaining everything, he just ignored me and continued with the wedding. I had to watch them saying their vows, exchanging rings, and kissing. I thought I was going to faint any minute now. Then at the wedding reception, Leon dragged me over to Lincoln and introduced me as his girlfriend. Awkward overload. And soon, some pretty girl distracted Leon again, so he chased after her. Then Lincoln immediately pulled me over to the stairwell. "Why are you here with my brother? Were you cheating on me this whole time?" "Seriously? What about you? I'm not the one who just got married." "Let me explain, it's not what it looks like." Right at that moment, Leon appeared and asked why we were here talking. I muttered out some story about trying to find the bathroom. Then I told Leon I had a headache and asked him to take me home. This was so confusing. How could my perfect boyfriend now be married to someone else? He kept on texting me saying he wanted to meet up and talk. I guess I needed to at least hear him out. The next day I met him at the museum, where we had our first date. So, his wife, Sandra, is the daughter of an affluential businessman who owns one of the biggest corporations in town. Lincoln's family company is in big debt, so his dad forced him to marry Sandra in order to save the company. Believe me when I say I don't have any feelings for Sandra. It's just business. I only love you. Please don't leave me. I promise as soon as the company is back on track, I'll file for divorce. Yeah, I know you probably think I'm crazy, but I still love him too. Besides, if the marriage is only temporary so he can save this family business, then that's understandable, right? He kissed me goodbye and left. But after that, Lincoln changed. Every time I texted and called him, he told me he was busy and would call me back. But he never did. I guess married life was preoccupying him. As if this wasn't frustrating enough, I had to put up with Leon. He kept on appearing at my place and bothering me. One time he showed up drunk, complaining about his ex-girlfriend, who'd just married someone else. Yeah, obviously it's far from worse than my current boyfriend just getting married. I tried to kick him out, but he'd already fallen asleep on my couch. The next morning I went to the kitchen to see Leon holding a picture of me and Lincoln and asking why we were on it. So I just shrugged and explained that we were a couple. Leon started laughing and calling me a fool. We argued back and forth, and in the end, I made him leave. I don't care what everyone thinks. I believe Lincoln. Then a few days later, I was walking out of college when I saw Mr. Hall waiting for me. He gave a slight sigh, then said, "I will make this short. Stay away from Lincoln. He's married now. Layla, I'm fond of you, but if you try messing with Lincoln's marriage, I won't hesitate in making things complicated for you." Oh my God! I can't believe Leon snitched on me. Ugh, what a giant baby. In anger, I took out my phone and gave him a piece of my mind. Oh my God. I can't believe you told your dad about me and Lincoln. You're such a jerk. Just leave us alone and mind your own business. If you trust Lincoln, then that's on you. But he's not as innocent as he makes out. He and Dad would do everything for the company. What did that mean? I hung up without letting him say another word. This jerk didn't even try to cover up his action. I couldn't just let them do this. I needed to fight for us. So the next day, I walked straight into Mr. Hall's office, even though his secretary tried to stop me. I told him right to his face that I would never give up on Lincoln despite his threats. And you know what? Forcing your son to get married just to save the company makes you a coward. Mr. Hall burst out laughing. Well, what came next was far from funny. Turns out it was Lincoln's idea to marry Sandra. Leon was right. Both of them would do everything for the company. Another thing Leon didn't tell Mr. Hall about Lincoln and me. He saw us talking at the wedding, so we hired someone to investigate us. I was totally wrong about Leon. Right at that moment, Lincoln walked in and stopped dead on seeing me. Layla, what are you doing here? You liar. I can't believe I trusted you. Please hear me out. I took the iced coffee from Mr. Hall's desk and splashed it in Lincoln's lying face. We're done. Overcome with emotions and feeling like a massive fool, I rushed to the nearest bar to drown my sorrows. I was about to down my fourth shot when a hand stopped me. Can Lincoln just leave me alone? But when I looked up, it was Leon. Why are you so good to me? I mean, I blamed you for telling your dad. You should hate me. Because I like you. I felt like the room was spinning upon hearing his words. Then everything slowly came to light. Leon was devastated when his girlfriend broke up with him. But then he found out she did it to be with his brother. Yes, you heard me right. His ex was none other than Sandra. At first, Mr. Hall forced Leon to marry Sandra for the sake of the company. Even though Leon was crazy about her, he didn't want to marry her under those stipulations. Lincoln overheard their conversation, so to gain his father's trust, he charmed Sandra away from Leon. Oh my God, this family was crazy. I didn't want anything to do with any of them ever again. So I just rejected Leon's feelings, ran straight out of the bar, and cut off totally with all of them. So what now? Well, I graduated last month. So after that, I decided I needed a fresh start in a shiny new city. So far, so good. I have a new job, which I adore. And it's so good knowing I'm not going to run into that jerk Lincoln or his dad. I know what you're wondering. What about Leon? Well, one day, I was walking out of my apartment when I saw a familiar face. Yes, it was him. Turns out when Leon heard that I was moving to another city, he moved too. I thought it was sweet that he was willing to leave his family, friends, and job behind just to be with me. Maybe it's time to gradually open up to him, don't you think? Well, time will tell. Too bad my story has to end here.
This just in. Due to the new wave of COVID-19, the authorities are imposing a nationwide lockdown, which is expected to last 2 weeks. The lockdown will begin at midnight.
Oh no, I have to get back to my dorm. We shouldn't waste any more time talking about this jerk anyway. I grabbed my stuff in a rush. Then suddenly, the doorbell rang.
I'll be back in 1 second.
Steven went to answer the door, while I had no choice but to wait for him. Gosh, this whole pandemic situation was so worrying, and I was already not in the mood for any more bad news. From the living room, I could hear the voice of whoever was standing outside the door.
Hey, any chance I can crash here for a bit? Sure, but just get your life together soon, will you?
Gabe? Gabe turned to look at me. His eyes widened when he realized who I was, and he awkwardly looked away from me.
So you two know each other?
Steven looked at us confused. There was an awkward silence between us three before he continued.
So, Janet, this is Gabe. He's my friend from the college hockey team. Gabe, this is Janet, my good friend from high school.
Jeez, this had reached new levels of uncomfortable. Gabe cleared his throat. Ahem. So, where do I sleep, Stevie? Then he headed straight to the bedroom that Steven pointed to while yawning. saying he's going to sleep first. Stephen laughed and turned to me saying,
"He's always like that. We were quite close back in college. He comes and sleeps over sometimes."
I stuttered out, "Stephen, that's the guy I was just telling you about. The one that ghosted me." Stephen gave me this astonished look, but he didn't say anything. Ugh, I so wasn't in the mood for this. I think it's best if I go. And right when I thought it couldn't get any worse, a phone call came. Upon seeing me pretty much freaking out as I took the call, Stephen must have sensed something was wrong. He asked me as soon as I was off the phone,
"Is everything okay?"
"It's my roomie. She just told me there's been a positive case in our dorm. I can't go back until quarantine is over." Oh no, what am I supposed to do? All my stuff is in my dorm room, and I can't drive all the way back to my hometown. It's like forever, and it's late already. I wouldn't make it anywhere before the lockdown, and staying in some hotels for 2 weeks was surely not a smart choice.
"Janet, you can stay here."
Stephen gently smiled at me.
"Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. I can prepare the couch for you, so you don't have to go sleep in my bedroom."
Aw, he remembers I have slight claustrophobia and feel uncomfortable in small rooms. I was about to reply, but he stopped me, then immediately walked over to the couch and started rearranging it. This was cute, and I did feel touched. Guess I'm staying here for quarantine. I mean, this would be fine, but Gabe was here too. What a small world, and what an awkward situation I'm in. But what choice do I have? The first night, Stephen stayed in the living room with me, and we talked a lot.
"Do you ever wish we were still back in high school? Things seemed simpler then, didn't they?"
Sometimes. It helped that back then I had the sweetest boyfriend. Do you remember when you got the cheerleading team to perform a special routine for my birthday? That's the cutest thing anyone's ever done for me. Stephen grinned.
"Well, I tried. We were so happy back then. Then college got in the way."
Hey, it's not all bad. We're still great friends. Stephen smiled back gently.
"Very true."
It felt good taking a trip down memory lane with Stephen. He used to be a sweet and caring boyfriend, and he still was such a guy. No matter what, being around him made me feel safe. We continued talking until dawn, then fell asleep. Much later in the morning, I woke up to the sounds of the fridge door slamming. Through blurred eyes, I made out that it was Gabe. He glared over at me before he stormed off back to his room. Ugh! Why did he hate me so much? Then I saw that he'd left pancakes on the table. Oh, these must be for Stephen, so I took them over to him. He was eating them as Gabe reappeared.
"Hey Gabe, thanks for the pancakes."
Gabe grunted out a, "Yeah," then gave me a dirty look before he walked off again. I tried my best to avoid Gabe, but this wasn't easy when I was stuck in a small apartment with him. I spent most of my time reading a book or listening to music. Yeah, we had history, which I just finished telling Stephen the moment before Gabe rang the doorbell. We dated for a month. Everything was cool, and I started to like him a lot. And whoosh, he disappeared. Janet ghosted. I was still very sad and didn't want to deal with any of this yet. Did the universe set up this surreal quarantine situation so I could get over this being ghosted thing? Then after that, when Stephen was in the shower, Gabe walked over to me and passed me a candy bar. I put my book down and took it from him, but only because I didn't want to be rude. Then he awkwardly perched on the edge of the couch and said, What's the deal with you and Stephen?" This annoyed me, so I blurted out, "It's none of your business." "Oh, please. I could already tell there's something going on the moment I walked in." Then, before I could reply, he continued, "Fine by me. Makes sense for a girl like you would fall for a playboy." Stephen is a good guy. He let you stay here, didn't he? So maybe you should think twice before you badmouth him in the future. Gabe grabbed the candy bar off me, then stood up. His cheeks were puffed out with anger, and he looked like he was gonna explode. That's when Stephen appeared and tried to defuse the situation. He led Gabe out of the room, But after that, I was too mad to read. So I sat there overthinking things and feeling even more annoyed than ever. Dinner was awkward. We all sat around the table in deadly silence, and Gabe and I avoided making eye contact. I felt bad that Steven was stuck in the middle of this situation. He didn't deserve this. As I was washing up, I overheard Gabe say to Steven, "Can you give us some space? I need to talk to Janet in private." Steven went off to his bedroom. Then Gabe waited till I'd finished, then asked me to go out to the balcony with him. "Look, Janet, you're smart, beautiful, and very independent. I fell for you right on the first date." Ugh, right. Good luck fooling me one more time. I'm so over it. Seeing that I wasn't taking him seriously, Gabe continued. "I really mean it. That's why you're totally out of my league. I was too cowardly to tell you this, so I decided it'd be best to just disappear and let you forget about me." What? Was he being real? I had no idea he thought that way. He apologized for what he did, and I told him I forgave him. Okay, so maybe Gabe wasn't so bad after all. He's just really insecure. This sucks, as we got on so well. After our conversation, I felt less awkward around Gabe. He started doing cute things for me, such as leaving snacks with a little sticky note that had some cute doodles on it on my pillow, bringing me juices, and showing me funny memes on his phone. I mean, this didn't make up for what he did, but we were confined in a small space together, so politeness doesn't hurt, right? But then Steven started being weird. Whenever Gabe did anything nice, Steven would tut, snort, and on a few occasions, mutter out some rude comments such as, "From ghosting to stalker. Nice." Why was he being like this? Hey, don't tell me that he's jealous of Gabe. Great. Out of the frying pan, into the fire. Then, one lunchtime, Gabe made us French onion soup. As he passed it to me, Steven shook his head and, laughing, said, "That stinks. This is a poor attempt to impress Janet. FYI, she hates onions." What do you mean? I'm not trying to impress anyone. Oh, please. I know you still have feelings for Janet, but you're no match for her. I watched them with a poker face, since I couldn't process what was going on. Then Steven turned to me, boldly said, "Janet, so many things have happened and changed, but one thing is still solid. That's my feelings for you. Don't waste your time with this kid." Wow, I sat there perplexed. What was that? And wasn't Steven a little too mean there? This was a side of him I hadn't seen before, and I didn't like it. "Stevie, what is this? I thought we were bros." "Yeah, relax, we are. Look, we both like Janet, so she just needs to decide who she wants. So, who's it gonna be?" OMG, this is just like that Twyla Saga situation. I have to choose between two totally different guys. Ugh, I hate it. Both this situation and that series. And honestly, I don't like the immature way they're acting now. How dare you two create this whole dilemma by yourself and put me in the middle of it? I choose neither of you, okay? You both had a chance with me and you both let me go. I want to stay friends, but that's it. I stormed off, thinking this would be the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. One time, I was watching a movie alone and got up to go to the bathroom. When I came back, they were both sitting on the couch, arguing with each other about who should stay and sit with me and who should go. Fed up, I shouted, "Will you both quit it already? You left me for college, and you for your own insecurities. And neither of you is acting like a grown man. I want a boyfriend who I can rely on, and that's definitely neither of you. As far as I'm concerned, any romantic feelings I had toward you both are well and truly in the past." They both gave me stunned looks, and more awkward silence prevailed. Was it a bit harsh on them? Even so, they still needed to know my feelings so they'd stop their own illusions and stop fighting in vain. Luckily, quarantine was almost over, so at least I'll be out of this smothering apartment in 2 days. Oh boy, that was the longest 2 days ever. No one spoke to each other, and the atmosphere was awful. When it finally ended, I muttered out a quick thank you and hurried to the door.
Janet, we are still friends, right?
Yeah, you're still my friend too, yeah? Stephen and Gabe impatiently longed for my reply, but I just smiled at them both and left. The truth is, I'm not sure I want to be friends with either of them anymore. The last 2 weeks were so weird and messed up that I can't think of anything further. So, for now, I'm just gonna enjoy the relief of getting out of that bizarre being stuck with two exes scenario first, right? I entered the apartment to see 4 sets of eyes gawping at me. Hang on, I know Ned and Philip from my math class, and the girl currently giving me a snooty look while twirling her hair around her finger was Jessica. Well, I didn't actually know her, but her wealthy and snobbish reputation preceded her. Then lastly was that emo kid. What was his name again? Deciding to break the uncomfortable silence, I said, "Oh, hey, so guess you guys are also in detention?" No one replied, though they surely heard me. Whoa, okay. This atmosphere was tense, and I thought I'd always been the awkward one. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm being made to do this weird detention. All I did was accidentally and poorly throw the dodgeball in the gym teacher's face. Then, when I was about to apologize, my tongue slipped. But, aren't you supposed to be the toughest since you're the gym teacher? I mumbled. Naturally, she was livid, so I ended up in the principal's office, and he handed me a piece of paper with an apartment address on it and said, "Go here for your detention. You'll stay here until you've learned your lesson." Huh? What type of unspecific instructions were those? Before I could ask him any more, he shooed me out of his office. Now, here I am in this random apartment with these untalkative kids. As I looked at them, I couldn't help but wonder what they'd done to end up here, especially when Ned was an excellent student. Did he make the wrong move in the chess club or something? We continued the whole staring at each other in silence routine. But then the door burst open and stormed in Gwen, our school's resident carefree tomboy. She sneered out, "Good evening, babies." Great. Now I was stuck sharing a living space with a girl renowned for playing pranks such as toilet papering the principal's car and filling the biology lab with live frogs. But seriously, how were we at her truancy level? Let's see who we have here. Gwen rubbed her hands as she walked around and stared at us. Princess Jessica? Oof, how come? She raised an eyebrow and grinned sarcastically. Just sit down and shut up. Gwen gave him a dirty look. This isn't basketball. You're not the captain here, jock. Then she squared up to him. Ned turned pale.